All right. Okay. I'm hearing cloud advocate, cloud advocate. What do you do as a cloud advocate?
Okay, so cloud advocates are basically in between the technical side of things and people who get to use these technologies. So, for example, Microsoft, or let me take the technology I use, Microsoft 365. And I have to tell you all as committee members, students and educators, make use of Microsoft 365. How is it like? How can we make Microsoft 365 better? And then you tell me, oh, okay, we need to remove this feature, we need to do this, we need to do that. I go back to the product team and tell them, oh, this is what the community has said. Please, can we remove it? Then they try as much as possible to make it happen.
All right. So just riding or standing on what Jafet has said, the three focus or anchor for cloud advocacy within our niche is content. You create content to engage people, and community, which is that can consume that content.
We need to have a mic here for announcements and more in case we want to know what I'm coming.
Help people. And when you start this community, you can help people, students like you, to learn about all of these amazing stuffs. So aside those, you also have opportunities to participate in product reviews. For those who are Microsoft Learning Student Ambassadors, check out Microsoft Technologies. If it's something you love, be sure to start learning about them. You can reach out to any of us, reach out to any Microsoft Learning Student Ambassadors. At the end, we're going to be helping you out with resources just in case you want to start off your career, so it's easy for you to do whatever you do as a student. And then one last thing I would say for the students in the house is, I know there's ASU strike, and you are feeling so down because you were expecting to graduate by 2023, and then that your uncle who has been promising you a job, you will start working probably at Shell or Chevron or somewhere. But don't let that let you down. This is your opportunity in disguise to make use of. There are countless opportunities for you all as students.
All right, thank you. I'm sure not everyone here is a student. So, David, do we have opportunities for professionals?
Okay. One thing that we try to do when it comes to community is to grow the technical ability of our community members. And one of it that we are trying to do right now is what we call the Azure Datathon. I don't know if anybody have seen it. Who is in Azure Datathon? Okay, so not much people. So now there is Azure Datathon. Azure Datathon is a challenge for all data people. So either you're a data professional when it comes to Power BI, data analyst, database, Azure data scientist, Azure data engineer. We have like five career paths within the Azure data ton, and you can pick any of it. When you're done with it, then you can write. They are going to give you. We are going to give you a voucher where you can write your exam and you build from that. You can even pick up two vouchers. Okay, and the last one is Azure Fundamental. So you start with Azure Fundamental, which is the normal background. Then you do your intermediate, either it is on data engineering or data science or database administrator. So that is Azure Data Ton. Apart from that, one of the things we noticed about um, our community, especially Africa, is that we are in silos. So you hear people saying, "Oh, I have a community, data community in one place. I have in another place. I have." Well, I personally found out that is good that we are trying to help our community in different locations, but we are doing it in a silos way. Like we're doing it in individual ability. There is no collaboration, and it's a big problem for me personally because I know Data Science Nigeria is doing a whole fantastic job with Mr. Bayo, and he's doing a whole lot. Now we have data engineering community, we have the DBT analytic engineering community. But what I want to do in Africa is to bring everybody together. If you're part of a data team, you'll notice that you're going to have a data engineer in your team. You have a visualization if God loves you. You know when they say head of data team, when you get there, you are the only person. Exactly. It can happen that way. But what we now say is that can we have a situation where we have everybody coming together in one team? And for those who know me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, I make a post about that in March. I said, hey, we want to bring everybody together under one Data First Africa. Now, you are my people. So now Data First Africa is bringing everybody together under one umbrella, which is you are in data science, you're in analytic, you are in anywhere, as far as you're in the data field, you are in cloud. Everybody, we are bringing everybody under one umbrella, October 14 and October 15. Actually, this is the first time we are saying it publicly, the date. So October 14, October 15, we're bringing everybody from, so we have speakers from UK, we have speakers from France, we have speakers within Nigeria who are coming. And why we are doing this event, which is a 2 days event, is because many people call me and say, "Oh, I want to join a community." There's no problem joining a community, but sometimes because of what COVID has done and everything like that, we wanted where everybody can see everybody physically, and from there you can build the connections that I want to do. So two things that I'm working on is the Azure Data Ton, which I want everybody to do it today. If you're on your phone, just put aka.ms/Azure Data Ton, AzureDataTon, Dataton, Azure Dataton. Now, if you have done that, then go to our website for Data First Africa. Just type www.datafirstafrica.com and you're going to have all this information. Next week, June 1, the site will open up for registration and it's 1,000 naira. Please, if you don't do that within 3 days, I'm so sure that it will be filled up. And for those who are online, they know that I am not lying. I am not even selling the event. I know where the event has gone. I'm not selling it. So please, we are just have 1,000 tickets, 1,000 people tickets. And here alone, we already have how many people in the hall? We have almost 300. So imagine people who knows even way before now. And many of us, we are Microsoft inclined, but look at the data science people. They don't even know much about Microsoft things. Analytic engineering communities. There's so many communities that are coming around. So please, if you see the link immediately, June 1, buy your ticket. Thank you.
Wow. So I see that there are different opportunities for different categories of people. You can't be left out. There's an opportunity for students and there are opportunities for professionals. Now, I would like to say this: grab your copy now. Okay, I have a question for Ola. Why would you say the cloud is important? What are the benefits of embracing the cloud? We've been hearing about cloud, cloud, cloud. Why would you say it's important?
Thank you very much. So let's start with this illustration. In 2020, the world was on global lockdown, and let's look at it that way. Practically, my organization almost shut down that time, and many organizations actually could not operate. We were able to hang to the cloud. What does this mean? Our on-premises applications and infrastructure failed us. Sometimes you need to be at the workplace, connect your LAN before you can access database, before you can access your CBA and some applications, simply because they are on-premise built. And during the lockdown, people were at home. You want to continue to connect. There's no way. You can't afford VPN for everybody. It's not even easy to set it up, and the experience is not seamless. What we have to rely on is the cloud. This is the best way you can understand the value of the cloud. The floor was lifted. We literally have to all hung to the cloud. You are now seeing software as a service solution. People often meet physically, you then subscribe to Zoom now because you want to do that same meeting, but use a service in the cloud. People do file server to access files in the past, but we want to collaborate now. Use Microsoft 365, where you can now leverage on SharePoint and OneDrive to share files and collaborate, and use Teams. And when you look at these things, this is just one of the scenario you can better appreciate and understand the value of cloud. Cloud is not something imaginary that's hanging somewhere. It is things that we use today. They are close to us. So we've seen how it helped prove business resilience, even in the midst of a global lockdown that often take place maybe over 100 years, a century. Additionally, overall, I used to say this: if you want to scale linearly, you can continue on-premise infrastructure. Scaling linearly, you are just growing. We've grew, 20%, we've grew 13% every year. You can continue that way. But if you want to scale exponentially, cloud gives you that leverage. Imagine you are running a Black Monday event, and I mean, this thing happened to all our universities. Students are trying to apply for post-UTME. The day the form is out, the site is accessible. The day the link is out, what happened? You just see shut down. It's because the traffic alone is that it is they are not leveraging on a service that could scale. There is elastic. Cloud offers you that ability that when demand is high, it grows to meet that demand. You won't feel it. If you are leveraging on physical infrastructure, you have to go and buy additional hard disk slot. I mean, you have to shut down the server, almost doing all those things. There's no growth there. So among several other benefits, I'm just going to highlight that one. First, business resilience, which we've seen during the lockdown. It was easy to interact with. Second, scalability in terms of elasticity. And I mean, cloud offer you three things: anywhere, anyhow, and anytime. When you leverage on cloud, you can do your work anywhere. You can do it anyhow, on mobile, on desktop, on app, on laptop, anyhow, and anytime. You don't have to be at the office before you can use it. You can be at home, you are connecting, you are doing your work. So I'm going to stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ola. I know some of us might be wondering, okay, when I decide to choose cloud, what happens? Is it secured? I'm just going to add this: it is secured. We have solutions. Aside Microsoft making sure it is secured, we have solutions that we can use to secure your data. So don't be scared. Um, David, what's the relationship between cloud advocacy and community?
I love that question. Um, so, f- cloud advocates, a lot of time people didn't know what cloud advocate was. Um, I think so, but people know that you have heard developer advocate. So developer advocates are people who the software engineers and stuff like that. You said developer advocates. Cloud advocates is just the same thing, just different name. It's just like when you say program manager and product manager, they are the same. They are just different part, but they are just the same. Cloud advocate is saying that there is a cloud service that I know very well, and let's use Azure. And in that Azure, I know the data part of Azure very well. Purview, Synapse, Power BI, SQL. I know them very well. And Microsoft now says, because you know this thing very well, I want to employ you to teach more people how to use it. Now, there are two things involved. You knowing the technical of it is different from you knowing how to teach it. Two things. So, cloud advocacy is the combination of you understanding the technicality of a product and the ability to teach it to that community. Who saw on my LinkedIn or Twitter, who saw the Power BI video I posted with PowerPoint? Those two integration. Do you see the way it flew? It had over close to 200, I think 150, 200 comments. Then we have over 1,000 reaction. And people were sharing it to the point that somebody said, David, they shared your video with me in the office. I saw it and I was laughing because I know it. I saw it already before. Now, why is because my job is to let you see what you didn't know that it was there. That is my job as a cloud advocate. You are my community, and that is where the relationship is. So I am trying to bridge the gap between saying that, can Power BI do this thing? I will help you and check. I say, oh, Power BI can do this thing. Let me show it to you. And you say, oh, Power BI can do this thing now. Okay, let me now use it in my company or wherever I am. So that is the relationship between.
All right, thank you very much. I'm sure some of us might be interested in being a cloud advocate, or am I wrong? Is anybody interested? Wow. Okay, can you tell us what it takes? Okay, I want to be a cloud advocate. Where do I start from? This is the last question.
Okay. I don't know why you're pushing it to me, but let me start. Okay. First thing first, you have to be within the community. First things first, you have to be within the community. You have to be ready to give your time, your energy, and everything. Everything that is being done here right now, the planning team, all those things, yeah, that is first community. You need to know how to create community from ground up. From ground up. Then also you need to know how to now share technical things of that. So I first was a MVP. So now when you've done those things over and over again, and somebody say, oh, you're doing a whole lot for the community, let me recommend you, you become MVPs. Most of the time that I've noticed within Microsoft is that many of them were once MVPs. Many were once MVP or closer to the community. So if you do a whole lot, they need to know that you're a community person as a cloud advocate. If you're not a community person, you can't become a cloud advocate. It's not about technical, it's about community, because they will always ask that, what have you done for community in the past 1 year? What have you done? What do you see community as? Something like that. So if they notice that you're just technical person, they will likely not give you. So that is just
What? No, no.
Okay.
Yeah, so for those that are students, again, I'm a student, so I can resonate better with you because I just graduated. I understand how the process looks like. For you all as students, a lot of times we feel we need to be this good, like before we start doing something related to community. Like I've seen a lot of students who wanted to do a CV and they feel I don't have anything to put in my CV, right? For David, he talked about community. You are like, how do I join a community when I don't even that imposter syndrome of I'm not good enough? Don't feel bad. I've heard somebody even say, my voice is not fine. I would love to record a video and teach people something. My voice is not fine either, but you're listening to me, right? So you don't have to have an angelic voice before you do a video. You learn something new, write about it, do a video, a YouTube video on it. For example, David said Power BI to PowerPoint. It was something he learned. It solved the problem. he sent it out, and a lot of people who had that same problem found it useful, right? So don't bother about your voice, don't bother whether you're a student, don't bother whether you have 24 hours power supply, don't bother whether you have plenty data, share the things you do, talk about it. For those who are students, the 30 days of learning program is an opportunity we are giving to you for free. ASU is on strike, so for the next 30 days, it's an opportunity. If you're a student in a Nigerian university or a Nigerian institution, please don't hesitate to register. Capital letter D, then capital letter D, then AYS, that is days, but the capital letter D, small letter A, small letter Y, small letter S, small letter OF, that is off, and then for learning, capital letter N. All of them are together, aka.ms/30 days of NG 30 days of learning. When you register, it's going to take you to the Imagine Corp portal where you can register. Imagine Corp is an amazing opportunity for you to win $100,000 if you get to the global stage, and a mentorship with the chairman and CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella. And then you could reach out on Twitter or LinkedIn with any of us, so we'll share other opportunities with you all.
Thank- Yeah, you can clap, please. Thank you very much. Just to add to what David said about becoming cloud advocates, it's very important that if you're a student, the campus is your first community. If you are looking, how can I prove my technical skills? The campus is your first community, and Jaffe leverage on the campus for his own technical community. So being one of the Microsoft Student Ambassador Program is a very good opportunity to also build your technical contribution to community. And there are two major Ozus for early career starters. Two major Ozu. One, you hustle for skill. Two, you hustle for job. A lot of people passed out and they go out there and start hustling for job. They then realize that there's a skill that can make you more competitive. They go back again and start hustling for skill. This is why 30 days of learning is very important. While you're a student, we want you to hustle for skill with us so that you can smoothen your job hunting experience. Thank you very much.
Wow, 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 wow. I've learned a lot today. I'm not a student, and I wish I had all this info when I was a student. I had all these opportunities when I was a student. One take home I'm going to take from here is community is actually very important. Not everyone is this okay recognized, but you can be in a community and not be the loud person. Some of us might not be, I don't want to show. You can be in a community and not show. Just create that impact. I'll say thank you very much for joining this panel session and enjoy the rest of the event.
Past spent and well, we had a question, but I think Jeff has answered that. So maybe just one more question. Who is going? Going? Ah, the other room. Okay. I don't know if there's a question from the other room. If there is, the first person. Oh, let's not do that. All right, we can take two people from the other room and then we'll go to the next thing. If you're in the other room and you have a question, you can come here. Okay. And okay, just before I take question, so the next thing we have our partners, they would like to speak to us for 2 minutes and then we have a break after this. So who is the person that raised his hand? Okay, please go ahead.
My name is Emmanuel. I would like to ask, aside being cloud advocate, my question is basically about as the technical part. Is there anybody that can answer the technical part concerning Microsoft? The aside using Power Apps and those ones, I'm more concerned of the technical part. Yeah, on machine learning. That's where you do the hard coding stuff.
Another 30 days, people are learning low code, no code application development using Power Platform for 30 days. Another track 3, people are learning data science and machine learning for 30 days. So that track suits you, and you can join 2 tracks. We want you to be focused and learn something for 30 days. Ah, someone that can answer your technical questions on data. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So just to understand your question, are you talking about technical opportunities?
You are building machine learning.
Okay, you're building your solutions already. Oh, okay. So
Yes, after. Meet us after.
Thank you.
Thank you. And also, just to clarify, what level of students is it? All levels, 100 level, SS, students. If you are on strike, oh, PhD masters too. All right. You're not a student. You're not a student. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. So we're bringing up our partners now. Okay, Mr. Shea.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ola. Thank you, David. And thank you, all of you, for being here and being supportive at this time. We want our partners to tell us what they do. But before then, we're going to play one of their videos. Once they play the video, they come up and tell us what they can offer us as a community, what you can gain from partnering with them. And I tell you, I was at Ashem 2 weeks ago. A lot of people were there for training, not in Lagos. People from Southwest. I think some people from Port Harcourt too. And they are just allowing them to come in. They train them. They onboard them into their system. So if you want to look at that angle too, just as the cloud advocate is saying, there are some partners that are also doing that. So is the video ready? Okay. We're going to invite TD to come and tell us what they do and what they can help out.
Okay. I want to thank you all for this privilege to speak with you. I've been part of what you guys have been doing since morning, and this is massive, considering all that I've heard and that I see that you guys are putting together, you know, as it pertains to our. So, I mean, with TD, some of you might be familiar with what TD is all about. We have been partners with Microsoft for a long time now, and core to what we do is distribution. But there's also the enterprise unit of TD that tends to the kind of solution that Azure has in its offering. As you're all aware, this is a TD premises, and this partnership with Microsoft and Azure is going to continue to push out new possibilities. I'll try and be very quick and direct with what I want to share with you today. So in expanding into new frontiers and looking at what's happening globally post COVID, TD's initiative is just to come up with new initiative to meet up that gap that exists economically. In one of those ideas that we have been thinking and putting into light, we have a platform that is called Joy. Okay, simply put, just own it. And what is the platform about? We're trying to create that opportunity for our customer base. Okay, I'll explain to you how this relates to Azure and what the opportunity is for you sitting down and listening to me this afternoon. So Joy Initiative is basically creating opportunity for people to acquire desired assets and have payment for that asset spread within time. Some of you might be familiar with this. For those of you who are taking loans from your banks. So considering the fact that TD has a virtual warehouse that sits on D365, we are putting that digital warehouse on a platform and in an app format, and also aggregating the digital credit system that exists with banks today. So your digital credit system is saying, for those of you who are familiar with Access Bank, there's a QuickBooks app that you could get loans and get assets, mobile devices, for instance. It requires you register that particular app, and it's tied with your account, and you have access to this. Several banks have these types of digital credit systems. What the Joy platform would with get access and your bank will fund for you and spread it. It's not people don't find it very comfortable to just release cash as such to get some of those desired assets as that they want. What is the catch for you? Everything that concerns Joy is sitting on our Azure server, as we know today. Considering that your community has a whole lot of you who have these kind of competencies, it also opens the door for you to be part of this project. See how we can empower you, how you can be part of that team, because we're going to scale up. What we have currently is just the beginning, and it's going to scale. And you're going to be part of that revolution that will change how digital credit happens in Nigeria. So yeah, Joy being a part of that big umbrella that TD has. So I say again, touch side with me. You can meet with him. You can get my contact. If you have that competence, you can start to volunteer. You can start to add value, and I can guarantee you there's something, in for you. Thank you.
That's TD. Have you been to their VI office? It's an epic. When we got there, the way they envision technology, apart from what they do, actually the pace they are trying to set. So if you're interested to join that team, is right here. Just go and meet him. Now, another partner we're going to profile is Ashem. Ashem, full of enabled women and ladies, and they want to tell us their own story. So I call the Ashem team to come and tell us their story. You're free. You can even.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, beautiful people. I bring good news. Okay, my name is Nkem Jika Jennifer Joma, IT Service Delivery Manager, Hashem Limited. So, briefly, I am here, or we are here today to talk about our company, our history, and the amazing offer we have for you.
So Hashem Limited is one of the most powerful IT companies in Nigeria and West Africa. And aside from being a reputable partner with Microsoft, we are also affiliated with over 12 multinational companies in the world. Yes, so I'm talking of companies like Sophos, Cisco, Autodex, Adobe, SolarWinds, need I say more? Okay, so what do we do? So as an independent software vendor, we offer advisory services, software development and deployment, licensing, training, and support services. So when it comes to training, we are dedicated to raising tech giants. We understand that most persons might not have that opportunity and also resources to take up what they intend to. So we have a good news for you, and my partner will speak more on that. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ijeoma. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Oluwaseun. I'm a digital marketer with Hashem. All right, I would like to speak about some of the things that we do, which pertains to training, most especially. And this has to do with an ongoing promo that we have at the moment. Just as we know, HASU is on strike, and we have a lot of students at home doing nothing. And at Hashem, we have a subsidiary called Hashem Academy. It's an institute where we train students, where we train business people, where we train individuals and so many other people like that. And our goal is to raise tech giants, and this is why we thought about giving a massive discount when it comes to training, and that is why we have an 80% discount that is ongoing at the moment at Ashem. And just as you know, if you've been able to have this today, you would have seen that we have about 3 courses there: Microsoft Azure Administrator, Microsoft Azure Security Technologies, and also Microsoft 365 Identity and Services. We know how much these professional courses cost. We know how expensive they can be. But imagine having this course for as low as 50,000 naira. That is what we do, and this is one of the amazing things that we do at Hashem, having to make things easy for people despite the bad economy. Sorry for that. All right. So if you have colleagues, if you're interested in this course, we would like you to take up this offer. It is quite limited, and we believe that it's going to go a long way in helping a lot of people. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much. Let's clap. Let's clap now. If they say you should clap to let them drop money, you think you'll be clapping. All right. I just want to read out the link for the Just On It app. In case you want to check it out, it's www.justownitapp together, justownitapp.com. And on Play Store, you can just search Just On It app. I think that's spoke about it from TD. Okay. Ma? It's not Joy. It's Just On It app. All right, I'm going to spell www.just, like just the thing. Okay. Should I go ahead? Own it app. I'm trying to get into character. J as in jog, U as in uniform, S as in Sierra, T as in tango. Are we good? O as in Oscar, W as in whiskey, N as in November, I as in India, T as in tango, A as in alpha, P as in papa, P as in papa.com. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that. And Play Store, just own it. Like, just own it. Sounds like an action word. All right. So it's time for break and lunch. I know some people have been waiting on that. It's not about we don't want you to eat a bad. Then after this thing, you now not listen to us again. No, it's something very light, continental, so that you can focus. All right. So I think it's outside. We just confirmed the modalities. I don't know if we have to step out to pick it up or we can stay in. Just
I think we should stay here. It's takeaway. It's just a park. You have your park. do whatever you want to do. You can do it right here, you can do it outside there, anyhow. But we just wait for them to give us signal whether they will start distributing it. Why? Just keep engaging. Let me just find the modem.
In the meantime, you can please network. Do you know the name of the person sitting next to you? All right, so I have news from Ashem that there is when you come out, there is a raffle draw. And you can
After you have taken your lunch,
after you have taken your
you
lunch.
can go and do the raffle.
Yeah.
But let all of us sit down. They'll come and give us our.
Food. Also, hope you're not sitting next to somebody you know because I'm seeing some people they came from the same school together and then you're still sitting. Change your seat now. Is that why we say you should network? Eh? It's not saying networking cable, oh. It's not LAN, oh. No, not HDMI, none of those. We mean human networking. Not artificial. Please, let's talk. Let's get to know each other. I'm going to ask questions about the person next to you, oh.
That's what we want to address now. Please, hold on. If you are from outside, if you are out, you come from you. As you are networking, if you are from outside Lagos and you have a community, we are going to create a WhatsApp link. We want to know how many community is from outside Lagos, whether it's from Ibadan, from Lagos, Port Harcourt, Benin. Let's just we want to have the pool of you to know how we are going to network. So it's part of networking. Yeah.
Okay. Our voice have reduced. You can continue talking then. Get to know your neighbor, what they do, where they work, what their dream is like. So that in future we see them, we say, you can't remember me. I sat beside you at that Azure conference. Oh yeah, I'm coming around now. I'm asking questions. Yeah. Okay. What's the name of the person sitting next to you? Kafaya. Is that your name? All right. So you guys are really eating it. Where does she? Are you a student? Where does she school? Where does she school? Is it correct? You came together. Good day, sir. I'm going to ask him. Hello, sir. Where does he work?
I'm still learning.
Because you're not just with him. You see? Uh, and we'll be I think so you're taking a session today. I think no, okay. All right. Okay. People at the back. People at the back. The people at the back. Hello, sir. You see, you are so engaged in your phone. What's the name of the person sitting next to you? You came together. Yes, you did. What do you say his name is? What? Is it correct? Is it correct? Yeah, sure. You're not covering for him. So you're frowning. Is it hunger? It's hunger. Don't worry, food is coming.
Take over. That's your life.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Can I have everybody's attention? Okay. So I need us to do something. Please listen. I need us to do something. We are here, right? And we are networking, right? It's good to network. But then I need you to do two things for me. The hashtag for this event is AZURENAIJA 2022. You can decide to write it if you want to. Azure Ninja 2022. So this is what I need you to do. Take a picture. You are sitting, if you are sitting close to your friend, please leave your seat and meet somebody else. You don't know whether the future Mark Zuckerberg is somewhere around. So please leave your seat, connect with somebody, take a picture. It could be a selfie, and then post on Twitter using the hashtag Azure Ninja 2022. We are watching that hashtag. We are watching that hashtag. So do that. Don't laugh. No, let's do it. Meet as many persons as you can. You can meet me too, but I'm going to hide so you don't see me. So meet somebody new. The hashtag again is AZURE capital letter NAIJA 2022. I'll be watching you all.
Okay. Hello. So, if you are a volunteer, you are needed upstairs. Please, all the volunteers are needed upstairs.
Check.
Hello. If you are outside, please, we are distributing the lunch. If you are outside, kindly find your seat so that we can know those that we are serving, those that have gotten food, and those that. Please, if you are outside, if you are taking pictures, kindly sit down, okay, so that we can distribute food to you. If you have not gotten food, sit down. Oh, please. If you have not gotten food, go inside. Go inside. If you have not gotten food, go inside. Okay. Yeah. So we are starting the next session now, and we are also giving out food. Please, everybody go inside. Please go inside. We are starting the next session now. We don't have enough time. Okay, go inside. You all be sorted. Yeah. So while you're having your lunch, we are about to start the next session now. Okay. Wale, Adewale Yusuf, your attention is needed. Okay. So please sit down. Hashem has so Hashem has a raffle draw, but not now. So after this event, come to their stand. Okay. So after this event, come to Hashem stand and write your name. They have gifts for you. Okay. And we also have freebies to go around. Okay, so we have a lot of challenge. The Microsoft Azure Community Challenge is currently ongoing, where we'll be giving vouchers to qualified person to write any Microsoft certification. So kindly sit down, please. Let's start the next session. Sit down for the next session. If you are not a volunteer, you are not needed at the walkway. If you are not a volunteer, don't come to the walkway. Go inside.
Sihambile ngibuzwile imbezikhalile moya uphukile kodwa kuvele wena ya konke sekundlule yebo yebo ngathi sengithola ikhaya lami yebo yebo ngathi sengithola ikhaya lami yebo yebo ngathi sengithola ikhaya lami thanda wena 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 Oh yeah, boy. Ati sengi toli kaya
Hello. 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 Okay. Let's start this section. Please let us pay attention. We know there is so many movement around here. Hello. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to start this section, and the section is going to be a combination, there's a combo of three different people. Say people, correct? Yeah. Three different sets of people with different skill. We're going to look at extracting
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
data from
Good
form.
afternoon.
Can we
I
close
know
the
we
door?
have a
Please,
mouth
can we stop
filled right
movement
now.
here?
Our mouths are filled, so we
The
can't
section has
speak out.
started.
It's
If you want to
fine.
come
Please
in,
don't
please come
try
right
to
in.
answer me back. You can just nod.
If you want to
or
come in,
you
come right
turn
in.
your head.
This is
So that
there
you
is
don't
same
choke on the
data.
food.
Just
All
choose
right.
the one, depending on the one you want.
So
Side.
I'm going to
Yeah.
be inviting a very interesting person to the stage, and then his name is Adewale Yusuf. Now, Adewale Yusuf is a Microsoft MVP,
Okay.
and on
So
the
we're going to talk about
data
extracting
platform category,
data
is
using what we call
also a
cognitive
Microsoft
service.
MCT,
Now, cognitive service is
SCSA,
part of the pillar that we have in
SCDA,
Azure.
and then he
And
works
the
with
build
Brown
of this is
Consulting.
where
Now, the
artificial
interesting thing about
intelligence
this
sits.
fellow is that
Now, in those days,
there are people that makes you
if
fall
you
in
have
love with data.
if you come into
I have
artificial
a brother
intelligence,
of his
machine learning,
in the other room
you have
also
to begin
doing
to build
something
your own
amazing
model.
there. You
Use your own
cannot have these
algorithm
people
to build
speak and you will
whatever
not
you
fall
want to
in
do.
love with data.
But
Believe me.
Microsoft has built
So,
in what we call cognitive service,
and the topic
which
he
is
will be taking
embedded in the
us
Azure
is
service.
on.
So we're going to do it
His topic is
in three different
demystifying Azure
ways.
Synapse
We have
Analytics
the data
with
extraction.
Power BI.
Synergy
So,
is a software developer, is
So
a
please
Microsoft
make
learning
welcome. Please, I
partner,
know our
is
hands
an
are
to be
filled
MVP,
up.
to be MCT,
Please, even if you
and the
can you
likes.
just do a little
He's
bit
going to
of
take
clapping
us
and
through the part
welcome
of the extraction.
Adewale for us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Then we have Ayodeji Folarin, is an MVP. Is also a specialist in data analytics.
Good afternoon, everyone.
He's going to take us through the part
Nice to be here.
of the extraction.
Please, you can put the
and
slide
how we
up.
can feature it in Power BI.
My session is
Next
just
slide.
30 minutes, so
now
I will not really waste time. But I have a
we know
particular slide that I just want to
digitalization
understand the kind of
is
people
a
we
word.
have in the room,
so
we can
the new
understand
thing.
how to tailor
And the essence
short
at which digitalization has
demo
gone
we are showing, right?
is beyond
So if you can put the
our
slide
reach.
up.
Now, even in talent hunts, people are looking for
Okay,
data
so
analysts,
how many data professionals do we
business
have here?
analysts.
So
You
you're
know
a
why?
data professional.
Because
Can we
they
put
sit
our
on
hands up?
data. Now, because
Data professional, whether you're a
digitalization has
database administrator,
exceeded,
data
a lot
engineer,
of things
data
have
scientist,
happened.
data
Next slide.
analytics.
We
Okay,
find out that
I
the
can see
world
few
has
hands.
changed. Whether we
Okay,
like it or not,
non-data
the
professional.
way
Your profession is
we
something
do
else,
things in the past,
different from data.
like
Can we
Mr.
see your
Tope
hand?
Popola, remember when we
Okay,
begin
I
to
don't
do
have profession.
firewall, all those things has gone to extinction.
It's still there.
Okay, I'm
They
a
call it
student.
the private cloud or
The
the
student.
on-prem. But the truth
Okay.
is that we
All
are
right.
in an age
So
where
interesting.
we
So
have a
I have this
computing power
slide.
that is in
The
the
first
cloud
slide that
that we
just
can
shows
leverage on without
which
actually
type
stressing
of
our
profession do you
ability.
belong
And
to?
that
Are
brings
you a
us to the
data
context of big
professional?
data.
Are you a
What
non-data
is big data?
professional? Or
Now,
are you a student? Right? Because the session we are doing is kind of a
in
little
essence,
bit,
we know that
let me say, intermediate,
data
not
itself
advanced.
is a
So
structural
the
content.
topic really
That
is
means you
demystifying
must have it
Azure
in SQL
Synapse
Server,
Analytics.
MySQL
Please,
Server.
can you move to the next slide?
It has its own table. It has its own column. But the
Okay, so that's the
influx
topic.
of
So we're talking about
unstructured
demystifying
data,
Azure
for
Synapse
example,
Analytics
you guys
and
were
Power
teaching.
BI. Please go to the next
Those are
slide.
data. Now, people like Twitter, people like
Okay, so they
Facebook
have introduced
will
me
take
already.
take on this data
I don't need to introduce
and
myself
analyze
again.
it to see
This is this guy
who
and whatever he is.
I was
Please
doing
move
an
to the
experiment
next slide.
sometime in Lagos. Every Saturday.
Okay, so
if
today
you have
really,
been to Lagos
what we'll
Island,
be talking
there's what we
about,
call
the
O1.
agenda, you can just show it
Now,
up. What we're
one
talking
unique
about,
things
we talk
about the
about
unstructured data they try to
Azure,
distribute is that
understanding Azure Synapse
most of them
Analytics,
have different attire.
data platform in
And the
Azure.
color
We
combination
also understand
differ.
Azure
What
Data
of
Lake
if I take
Storage.
my
We
algorithm,
also understand the
look at each
ETL with
of this
Azure
Saturday,
Synapse
I can
and
predict
also Synapse
what kind of
Notebook.
color or texture
So
of color
basically,
they
Power
should
BI with
have
Synapse as
in
well.
terms
I
of
know a
the
lot of people,
kind of
especially
code
the
you can buy.
data
So
professionals,
the big data
you use
spread
Power BI
across
on a daily
every
basis. Let's see your
structured and
hand.
unstructured data.
I have not heard of
the
Power
frame
BI
of
before.
digital
Let's see your
experts.
hand.
Next slide.
No hand.
We
Okay,
know
I've heard of it,
adoption
but I
is
have
gradually
not used
coming
it.
to Africa.
Let's see
Whether
your
we
hand.
like it or not, that's why we're here.
Interesting. So I like my
But
audience,
in
right?
Europe, even
Which
Europe
kind
as
of shows that
the
I really need to
adoption
take slow
getting
things down
to
a
the
little
peak
bit.
at
So move to the
2021.
next slide. So these are the
When
things we'll be talking
COVID-19
about.
happened,
But
everybody
because
was
I
brought
understand
to a
that
standstill
we have some people, move to
because
the next
we
slide.
didn't
We have some
expect it.
people that are not
Things
data
started coming out,
professionals in the
remote work.
house. I will just
Talent
do a
started
little
coming out
bit of
from different places.
explanation on
I can tell you,
data.
I don't know how many
Please
of
move
you
to the
here
next slide.
that can work from your house and you earn dollar.
Okay.
A lot of people
So
that are doing that
just
now using Azure.
arrow. Yeah,
Now, the truth is that
because of our
the
time.
adoption
So
rate
every
is
organization
increasing.
run on
Next
three
slide.
systems. That's what
Let's
we
make
need to
it faster
understand.
now.
For anybody that feel
Now,
like they want to go into data
we
professional,
try to look at
you
this
want
was
to
what
be
I was
maybe a
talking
data
about,
engineer,
O1.
you want to
The
be a
next
data
slide.
analyst, you want to do data analytics, data
What
scientist,
we are saying now
database
that
administrators.
modernization is
You
pulling
just need
data,
to understand
and
that
data
every
is making it
organizations in
very,
the
very
world
important.
run on two
Data is
systems.
the raw thing
Right?
you have.
The
The
first system is
information
what we
is
call
what
operational
you
system.
convert those data in.
And operational
The
system is just a
analysis is what
system
we
where
get. So
they
when we
that
just
they
go
use
down
to
to
operate
the
their business on a daily basis, right?
slide
Those operational
24.
system can be a custom built system,
24.
maybe by someone.
So
it can be
we don't want to
maybe
start
a database somewhere that directly
building what
where
we
you
call
directly feed your
OCR.
data. It can be an off-the-shelf system.
OCR
It
is
can be
a
SAP,
technology by which we can
different
capture
system,
image,
right? Every organization
use that
have their
image
own operational
and
system.
extract those image
Operational
in the
system is
form they
how they
are.
run their
And that's what
business on a
Osinachi
daily
is gonna
basis,
do.
right? And
And
they keep their data that way. The second system is the analytics system, right? There's no any business without analytics. Do you know that business is not doing well, right? Whether your business is giving you profit or not, whether you should sack some people, right? I know people don't want to hear. Analytics. All the system we have in Power BI now, your data model, your Power Query, your DAX engine, and all that, everything started in Excel. You can still do them in Excel. You can still do beautiful visualization in Excel. You can still do beautiful reports in Excel. That is the analytics system, right? So when you want to understand what a data platform is either you fall under the operational system or you fall where? Analytics system. That's how you choose your profession. So if you fall under operational system, that means you are closer to maybe being a data engineer, a database administrator, And then if you fall on an analytics system, maybe you're a data scientist, you're a data analyst, you are a business analyst. Do we know the difference between business analyst and data analyst? Okay. Okay, she wants to tell us. Wait, tell us. What's the difference? Because I can see a lot of roles on LinkedIn. Business intelligence, data, everything analyst. Okay, tell us. Yeah. Okay. Mhm. Can we give her a round of applause, right? So that actually simplifies it, right? But let me put it in these simple terms, right? Data analyst is the person that analyze your data. Business analyst is the person that makes sense of it, right? But in Nigeria, you do the both. In fact, you do data administrator. You can't learn SQL. Why are you learning SQL? You are not a database administrator. You want to do data analytics. Why are you running to SQL, right? But that is where we find ourselves. That's the system. Don't take my advice, though. We are used to it. Thank you. So in Nigeria, you do everything together, right? You do a database administrator, you do a data analytics, you still make sense out of that data. So the business analyst is somebody that just analyze the business based on the output of a data analyst, right? So your profession can fall under the analytics system. I'm going backward a little bit because I understand that I've surveyed my class, okay? My slide is not up again. Technical system. See, my village people, they followed me, but I thought they stop. Okay, let me just talk. I'm a trainer. All right, so we are talking about data. So data really, is it that you fall under operational system or you fall under analytics system? Now, what you need to think about Azure, because we are talking about Azure conference here, is that Azure is a system that packed all these things I've mentioned together, right? And even these days, you find out that people jump from different skills to another. They are, let me say, jack of all trades, master of none, right? So you try to learn SQL, you try to learn Power BI, you try to learn Azure, you try to learn this. Do you know why you are learning those things, right? What you need to understand, what I tell people is that understand the framework, understand the basis, understand where you are and where you are going to, right? So for data, really, what you need to understand about Azure for data platform, please go to the next slide. If you are there, go to the next slide. So you need to understand that the way Azure works for data platform and the way Azure is structured for data platform. Thank you. Yeah, the former slide. Yeah, this one. So data platform in Azure, right? This is what you need to understand about data and everything about data in Azure. The first thing you need to understand is everything that I've explained earlier. Here, you see the steps, right, as it's building up. Maybe you have a data somewhere from log, files, maybe a media data, maybe from a custom app, a business app, and all this data is transformed into an ingest, right, like a pipeline. We are putting this data into pipeline, which is the Azure Synapse, right? And that's the future of data analytics, right? If you are learning data analytics, you are learning Power BI alone. Try and look at Azure Synapse, right? Because in future, you don't really need to be specialized on a tool again. You need to be a master of all this system, right? So you move your data from that to ingest and you store it in a place. Azure use a Azure Data Lake Storage for Azure Synapse. Okay. Okay, so you put your data into a storage, just like what you can see here, the Azure Data Lake Storage. And after putting your data into a storage, you now move it into something we call data warehousing. So you map your data very well, right? You know, people, aside from the data you can see on the system, my side is not working. Don't worry, I can talk. Aside from the data you can see on the system, paper, all those forms you scan in your office, they are data, right? All those CSV you put somewhere. Do you even know how a database is being created? Some database feed from a data directly, where you go to some, like a ShopRite, like Eatery, where you buy stuff, and people record stuff as you're buying it, is feeding into what? A database. There are some databases that didn't work like that. People pick different CSV, Excel, different file everywhere. They put it together. They make it a structure and they put it in the data lake story. After putting all those different CSV, Excel, they use something called ETL platform. Extract, transform, and what? And what does ETL mean, right? It's just a simple terms. Extract, I'm extracting from somewhere, right? From a database. Transform, I am trying to clean it to make it look like a well-structured data, right? And after you make your data structured, then you do what? You load. Whether you load to a database, whether you load to an analytics system, or you load to wherever you want to load it to. So after your storage, you move your data to ETL, you do different transformation there, and you do some kind of modeling. For the people in the data scientist space, you use a lot of machine learning to test some algorithm on your data, to test a lot of things on your data. To say, okay, so how is my data doing? I have different categories of analysis. I have the descriptive, I have the diagnostic, I have the predictive. So I'm predicting this data that I have right now, based on my historical trend, where will I get to, right? That is you predicting, right? You can also do a cognitive analysis to say, based on this data that I have now, let me pick some intelligence out of this. What if something happened in future? What will happen? Anytime you are doing what if, right? Just know you are doing a cognitive analysis. When you find yourself saying what if, that statement, right? What if? Just know you are doing a cognitive analysis, right? So you do different those analysis, you do all those stuff. Then after doing all those machine learning, your analysis and all that, then we come to the part that people like. And what's that part? Thank you. And when you see LinkedIn and Twitter, you will see plenty dashboard. I have successfully created my awesome and beautiful visualization. You put it out there, right? That is not the solution. In fact, I have a client that we work for in abroad. This client does not need your visualization. What they need is a structured data model. Map their data, create a well-structured data model for them, give it to them. They can play with visuals, right? And that's where Power BI is going to. Everybody can play with visual. Just drop your visual, pick this, visual need two things, right? A field, a value field, and a reporting feed. A category, let me use that. Categorical feed and what? Value feed. So you drop that, drop that, drop that. So organization need you to create a well-structured data model and get insight from their data by writing an appropriate DAX. An average data analyst now, when you ask, we know how to use Power BI, can you do a correlation? I say, what is correlation again? Right? And I say, that one is stats now. It's stats, not analytics. Right? So they are the same thing. Right? And correlation is just you checking two things. As this thing is moving, are they moving together? Does this influence this to move? Like, for example, I did an analysis of a recent of an employee and a sales. So the company is trying to check if our sales is going up. We are training our employee, right? As we are training them, does it make any influence on our sales? Is our sales going up as we are doing training? Most L&D need that information. I want to know the return on investment. This training that I'm doing for this employee, are they doing well? Right? If they ask you that question, the first thing you should think of is correlation. Let me check what correlates between employee and then what? Employee and what? Sales. If I train this guy, does it mean that this guy will bring in more revenue? Right? So you do your correlation and you do everything. That is what you should think of. And this is what Synapse is bringing to you. Synapse is bringing all this interesting system in one place. I don't know why my system is not working. Or my slide is not working. It's bringing all this interesting stuff that I've mentioned in one place where you don't need to jump from one place to another again. You can do everything with one platform. You don't need to say, okay, let me jump to Power BI. Let me go and learn Power BI small. Let me learn Tableau a little bit. Let me learn Excel. Let me learn this one. Let me learn this one. So you can move to the next slide. You can do everything in one place. And that's what Synapse is doing for you. Now, the beauty of analytics that we have is the Power BI, right? How many of us heard about the Power BI data mart that just came out? The Power BI data mart. Thank you. Okay, for the data professional, how many of us know about SSAS, tabular model? Okay. So all this interesting tabular model, data warehousing, everything you are doing, Synapse is putting everything together for you in one system, right? So in one system, I can actually use Synapse, bring my data from different places with a drag and drop interface. Why most people run away from IT is because of what? Coding. Do you know why? Coding, they'll say, no, I can't do IT. You will now start writing code. You will learn Python language differently. You will learn SQL language differently. You will learn DAX. In fact, people run away from DAX. Say, once you know time intelligence and variance, it's okay. I'll be using that, right? So people run away from IT because of coding. In fact, let me give you this expo. Microsoft is bringing something else recently for Power BI. They announced it for the MVP, which is the Insider MVP. They are bringing a system on Power BI that will generate a DAX for you automatically. Just put your expression in English. I want to know this divided by this, that, and Power BI will generate the DAX for you automatically. It's an expo. Don't tell anybody. Okay. So they are bringing that very soon. So that is why people run away from IT. And I've explained this data platform. You just bring in your data to orchestration, ingestion, storage, move it to an analysis service, and then your outputs to Power BI. That's your output, right? So people focus mainly on this guy, on Power BI, right? They forget all the parts backward. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be, actually. We are not supposed to be multitasking. Abi? We're not supposed to be doing different things, but the world we find ourselves. In fact, when you see employer, I want to be in a conference where I'll be able to speak to some employer. Because when you see them posting some job requirements on the internet, you will run. I was interviewed by one HR. I even asked that HR, that thing that you're asking me, do you know it? Do you know it? Right? Because when they post those stuff online, they say we need somebody that can do SSAS, SSRS, tabular model. You want to do that's guide. You can use that guide. You can use that query. You can do this. You can do. What is going on? Life is not this hard, right? So that's why people specialize on stuff. But I won't advise you to specialize because this is Nigeria. Move to the next slide. Sorry. Now, data lake. This is just about data lake and the data storage. I've mentioned something about this. You can move all your data from your devices, from social media, even a video from a web, from everywhere, and store it on a data lake, right? Data lake storage. And that's the storage that Synapse is using, right? It's using data lake, right? Bring your data from wherever you are bringing it from, even from SQL, right? You can bring it there and to ingest all those data into data lake. Please move to the next slide. Okay, thank you. Now, we have something called Synapse Pipeline. I've mentioned that too, which allow you to do your ETL. I mentioned ETL. ETL means what? Yeah, so you use your ETL to transform all your data and do different transformation. Then use Pipeline to do orchestration, flow management, data flow for transformation logic and business rules. And that's where the world is going to, right? Most of your analytics need a flow, right? They need a flow. It doesn't stop at visualization. At the end of your visualization, just know another journey has started when you finish visualization, right? And what's the journey that started? Automation, right? Have you ever think of adding Power Automate to your Power BI? Do you know how interesting it will be? Do you know it will be very interesting, right? When you add Power Automate to your Power BI to say, when this happen, do this. When this happen, do this. It's like you are replicating yourself, right? And that is what Synapse is doing. Can you see I'm putting different tools now in Synapse, right? Please, my slide now. I don't want to look at myself. Sorry. Next slide. All right. So, and there's also Power BI integration. So all those Power BI desktop you download on your system, you connect to your data, and you build your report. There's a Power BI integration in Synapse. You can build your report right here in Synapse. You don't need to go to another platform separately. In Synapse, you can connect and interact. You can update and edit your reports inside Synapse, right? You can even connect to Synapse itself. If you feel like you want to use the Power BI desktop, you can connect to Synapse, bring your data into Power BI, and do a lot of transformation that you want to do. Please, next slide. Okay, so this is what is very important, right? Data professionals should not have to continually learn new skills to deliver insights. You don't need to jump from here to here. And one thing about Microsoft, they are even pushing us. You know, if you are not in a community and you call yourself a data analyst this year, by the time you open your eyes next year, you just feel like, it's like everything has changed. Oh. Have you noticed? Because they'll bring new tools. Those times they are not in the community, they'll bring new things. New things will keep on coming. And that's why Power BI is ahead of some other analytics too, right? So you need to keep on, people need to keep on learning things. I want to learn this. I want to learn this. I want to learn this. But Synapse has streamlined this process, whereby you can learn everything in one place. You want to do data exploration, it's there. You want to do AI, artificial intelligence with your data, is right there in Synapse. You want to do machine learning, you don't even know how to do machine learning. There are some pre-built templates in Synapse that can train you with a drag and drop interface, right? Just go to those templates, look at it, look at how it's been done, and then replace that template with your own data and see some interesting machine learning inside that you see. Data warehousing, you don't need to go to another different tool. Maybe you're doing tabular model to do this. You don't need to do that. Everything is right there in Synapse. Real-time BI. My report, I want it to be a real-time report. As the occurrence is happening, I want my report to update. Real-time BI, it's there, right? Data integration. You are good with SQL. Go and write your SQL in Synapse. Don't need to go to another different applications to do that. Synapse allows you to do everything in one place. And that is what Microsoft is investing on greatly these days, because they want, if you call yourself a data professional, in fact, I don't like to call myself a data analyst. I don't like it. Because when you say you are a data analyst, they will think, and maybe you just analyze data. Aside from analyzing data, what else can you do? That's what people will ask you. So I like to call myself a data professional, right? So I'm a data professional. I can do data. I just work with data, right? That's why I call myself sometimes business intelligence analyst, not data, just intelligence from your business. So all these things are all in one place in Synapse, right? So you can do all those interesting stuff, from bringing your data to ETL, to analysis, to even bringing out some insight. You can do everything in Synapse in one place. And one thing I like about this Synapse is not hard to use, right? You don't need to start learning coding before you understand Synapse. It's just a drag and drop interface. Go to the next slide. Let me see. Okay, demo. It's just a drag and drop interface, like I was saying. So Synapse, let me give you a scenario. Let's say, for example, you have some data on your SharePoint. You know, some low budget organization, they like to put most of their data on SharePoint. That's why we call them low budget. They like to put most of their data on SharePoint, right? So, and when you connect Power BI to SharePoint, analysts, I don't know whether you have this experience. If you connect to a lot of data on SharePoint, your Power BI will be turning on your own. When that data is very big, you just notice when you refresh, you have to go and take your bed, wash your teeth, wear some clothes. Then when you come back, it has refreshed, thank God. Right? So Synapse allows you to connect to all this data. Instead of putting it in a separate database or anywhere, you can put all this small data that you use, put it directly on Synapse. I said Synapse use a database. What's the name of that database? Data Lake, thank you. For the storage, right? You can put all those data in Synapse. It will supply those data to Data Lake. And from there, you can do different things. I don't know if you can permit me to go to my system and just show you a little bit demo. Do you permit me? Okay, thank you. Okay, my system is hidden in the corner. Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you. Okay, all right. I don't know if you can see my screen. I'm sharing a browser. Can you see the screen? All right. So this is how Synapse look like. You don't need to look at me. Don't worry. Just look at the slide. Abby, since I'm hiding in the corner. Okay. So this is how Synapse look like. And how do you start? How do you get started, right? What you need to get started with Synapse is just Azure subscription and the resource group, right? I know some speakers have talked about subscriptions, how you can get different subscriptions and all that. But for the people that want to learn, for the community, the student, you can set up a trial account, right? You can use your card to set up a trial account. They will not charge you for anything. The account I'm using right now is a demo account, right? Just for you to play around with this guy. So you can set up a demo account and look at how it's been done. So if you look at here, this is Azure portal. Let me just reload my screen. Okay, so this is Azure portal I'm showing on my screen. So we are familiar with Azure portal for the people that have signed into Azure for the first time. And if you are not familiar with that, just go to azure.com or portal.azure.com, sign in with your demo email, right? And you can see a trial license. You can set up a trial license there. Just do a demo for 1 year. I think the demo is just for 1 year, 12 months, right? So once you set up this and you are on Azure portal, you will see this interesting interface here, Azure services. There's a lot of services on Azure. Some people have talked about AI. In fact, I've done a project where we use the cognitive services in Azure, link it to Power Apps, and we bring out some insight. By taking a picture of you, I can know your age, your gender, and some other information about you, the color of your hair, with the AI that we have in Azure, right? So these Azure services that you are looking at, to start Synapse, you just go to this search that you can see at the top here, right? This search here, and you search for Synapse. So for me, really, I have my Synapse here already. So I will just click on it. So once you click on it, the next thing you do, right, is you click on Create to create your own Synapse. And then I'm going to click on Create now, but I won't finish the setup because it will take a while to provision. So now, once I click on Create here, once I click on Create, this is what you will see, right? Like I said, two things is important when you want to set up a Synapse. What and what? Subscription and then a resource group, right? So this subscription you are looking at on the screen is a trial subscription that I set up, right? And that is a Azure subscription one. The second important things you need to check here is the resource group, right? Is the resource group. Let me zoom my screen. Okay, it's the resource group. And you can see that resource group down there. So you set up your resource group. You can create a new one if you don't have any already. But if you are working on a client's tenant, they will have an Azure resource group already. So you just pick whatever resource group you decide to work with. Now, after you've set up everything under your details here, the next thing you do is you come to security. So for security, really, when most people set up their database, especially SQL, they like to use both Active Directory and authentication, another type of authentication, right? So you can set up your SQL password here. So whenever anybody is connecting to your Synapse from Power BI, they have to put those passwords to access it, right? So you set up your security and put a password, and after that, you just click on OK, and you have everything. So once you do that, it will take you to this interface you are looking at. Let me just sign in here. Okay, so once you provision your Azure Synapse, it will take you to this interface you are looking at now. The name of my Synapse is Adewale Synapse Analytics. This is just a demo account, like I said. And what is interesting about Microsoft is that they have Microsoft Doc for most of their application that you can read. So for Synapse as well, you will see read documentation here. So if you want to start to learn Synapse, you can click on Learn More. So you read their documentation and you read about Synapse here as well. The another thing we have is Open Synapse Studio, and that is where the magic happens, right? So you click on Open to open your Synapse Studio, but I think I've opened it already in this tab. Yep. So this is how Synapse Studio look like. And this is the powerful tool that will take your analytics to the next level. All right. So this is how Synapse 2 look like. In Synapse, you can start with ingest, you can explore and analyze, you can even visualize from here, right? For example, if I click on visualize, it will tell me to connect to a workspace, right? A workspace on my Power BI. Once I connect to that workspace, I can connect to that data set and start building some report. So I've already connected a workspace to this Synapse. That is why it's listing some data set for me to use. All right. So this is the home page for Synapse, Azure Synapse Studio. Okay. I'm trying to round up now. Okay, so that is the workspace. Let me just cancel this. How many minutes do I have? How many minutes? Sorry, Roland. 5. Okay, let me manage it well. All right, so now here you will see the different icons here. So under data, I mentioned data lake, right? So this here is for data, right? This here, the one I click on now, is for data. And it is very easy to use, like I said. It's a drag and drop interface. Now, there's a link service here where I have my data lake. Data lake. So in this data lake, I have already brought a CSV file and an Excel file inside this place, right? So this CSV file, an Excel file that you're looking at, let me click on it. Let me zoom this. All right. So this data lake that you can see here, I've already brought a data into this Azure Synapse. And with my data that I have here, I can perform some SQL operation here without even going to SQL. So I can do some little things here. So here you can see I have a staff performance CSV. Here, I brought a CSV file here called staff performance. This CSV, I can right click on it. That's the beauty about this thing. I can right click on it. You can either preview it. You can do a new SQL script. You can do a new note. You can even do a new data flow. Let's assume that I want to do a script, for example. If I click on new SQL script, right, I can say select top 100. Select top 100, all right? And look at this. It creates a SQL code for me. Can you see that? Which I can even write a code here from here directly. I can run this code now by just clicking on run. So when I run this code, you see the table here, and this will be showing the top 100. In fact, another thing I can do, I can count the table. If I want to know what is the total number of rows that we have inside, I can write a SQL code here. I can just write a SQL code that I can't see my screen very well. Okay, I don't know what I did is correct. Let me zoom. No, it's not correct. Okay, so I can't see the screen. So I can write a SQL code here just to count the star, right? To know the total number of what is here. The next thing I can do, right? On that data, we have another thing here called develop. Under develop, this is where you develop a lot of stuff, right? In fact, I've added a Power BI workspace to this, like I said. Under this Power BI workspace, you can see some interesting report that I have here already. So let me close this. Let me close this. All right. So under here, I have a workspace here, right? A demo workspace, actually. So this workspace have been linked to Power BI, and I have some report here that you can even look at, just to show you that there's an integration between Synapse and Azure. So right here, I can see different reports here. In fact, I can go and I can decide to click on one. Let me just click on one of them. So you see how this looks like on Synapse. Okay. All right. So this is my Power BI report on Synapse, but we really did not have too much time to talk about this guy, right? So this is just for Azure Conference demo. I just have a report that just compare a before and after correlation in an organization. So not to really show you much of a demo, right? But we don't have much time, but I just have a gift for you, right? And the gift I have for you, the first gift, right, is that you can learn more from this page. So you can write this link down, aka.ms/synapse101, right? aka.ms/synapse101, right? Let me show that again. aka.synapse/101. Just give me 2 minutes, sorry. I know you are there already. So aka.synapse/101. So I'm giving a gift as well, like I said, and this is just for maybe students or for the people that just started in data professional. In data professional, we cannot come and give you gifts. You guys are my Oga, Abi. So we cannot give you gifts. But for you to be able to have that gift, there's a little quiz that I have is just 5 questions, right? And Uncle Shay, you can just give me 2 minutes, right? Just 2 minutes. Yes. So it's just 5 questions. So you can see our 2 minutes is counting already. So if you want to join this challenge, go to kahoot.it and type this pin or scan the UR code, right? Or scan the UR code. Once you do that, a player will appear on the screen. And I'm starting in 10 seconds. So make sure you join this challenge. And then what will be the price? Maybe we should do $100, right? Should we do $100? Okay, some people saying yes. Yes. Okay. Showing is here. Thanks. I'm starting in the next 15. So make sure you join. Go to kahoot.it and type this pin. I'm starting in 15 seconds. 2, 3, 4. Go to kahoot.it. I can see plenty students already. 10, 11, and I'm starting now. Okay, so which Azure Synapse Studio Hub will you go to create a notebook? Remind you, this quiz is a quiz of speed and accuracy. So if you are not accurate and you are not fast enough, you will not get it. 6 seconds, 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time is up. So who is leading the board? The answer is develop. Develop tab. Sorry, I didn't show it, but Sheung, who is Sheung? Okay, we don't know yet. So question 2, right? It's just 5 questions, right? In Azure Synapse Studio, why would you view the content of the primary data lake store? Just 10 seconds to answer this one. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time is up. The answer is what? In the link tab of Data Hub. Now, shall we go down? My spirit is telling me. Now, Women Girl is up. Okay. So, question 3. Which type of analytic answer what is likely to happen in the future based on previous trend and pattern? I mentioned this. So you have 10 seconds to go. 35, 36 answer. Wow. 37. 1 second. And we have one more question. The answer is predictive. So Women Girl is still hub. Speed and accuracy. Question 4 or 5. You have to occasionally prepare data for ad hoc data exploration and analysis. Which resources model in Azure Synapse will help you do this? Should I give you Expo? Some people are saying yes, no. Okay, let me give you Expo for this one. If you are fast, serverless. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time is up. Some people that missed it before I give the Expo. Sorry. Okay, so Women Girl. Sheung is back. This Sheung. Where can you develop a T-SQL script and notebook in Azure Synapse? This is the last question. Where can you develop a T-SQL script and notebook in Azure Synapse Analytics? And the answer is looking at you. Very simple. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time is up. Let's see the winner. Okay, so the third person, mainframe. Who is mainframe? DYDX and Sheung. Funny it will not be Sheung. Okay, so a round of applause to these 3 people. You just won yourself $100. I will announce how you can claim your prize later. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I wish they can convert the dollar into cash. That dollar, is it physical cash or training cash? Okay. Let's just we're going to the next section where we are going to go to look at okay, to look at open source for those that are developers and those that want to look at another avenue of making change, especially in your life. Okay. So let's just have a seat as we welcome Jumoke. I'll call her Madam MJ. She's CTO of Ashem.
Thank you. That's a double madam because MJ means Madam Jumi. Thank you. So my name is Olajumoke Toriola, and then I have very wonderful people here to trash the topic we're going to be speaking to in Africa. And so I'm going to be inviting amazing set of people to come. I mean, do some justice to the topic. First to be caught the stage will be Babatunde Vaughn. He's program manager at Microsoft Africa Development Center. Please. Yeah. So next I'll be calling I used to call this guy my son, so to say. So but he's not a big boy. And yeah, so I'll be calling Olumide Ogundare, software engineer at Microsoft. All right. Yes, Olumide was a former MVP, but now I think he has to get rid of that title working in Microsoft now. And then I'll be calling Gabriel Emmanuel. Yes, he's a .NET software developer at Kure Technologies. Core. All right. Thank you for that correction. All right. So we have a very interesting topic. I'll just give each of them the opportunity just to say a little bit of themselves and then maybe to introduce themselves better. So Babatunde, can you tell us a bit about yourself and about your journey in the software development industry?
All right, so hello everyone, and good afternoon once again. I'm excited to be here, and I love the energy I see in the room. I love the passion that I see in the room, and I think it is very, very impressive to see. So I'll start by really, admitting that I was so impressed when I came in here today. So currently, I'm a program manager on the ecosystem development team at Microsoft Africa Development Center. And I will take like a minute to just give you some insight into what the ADC is. The ADC in this case is an acronym for Africa Development Center. And for many people, you probably would have known of Microsoft over the years, being in Nigeria and also more from a sales standpoint. The Africa Development Center was actually kicked off in May 2019. It's 3 years now. And part of what we are really focused on could be considered from three standpoints. We are looking at how do we make sure that we can develop the ecosystem. And I can give you a typical example of what that could mean. If a company starts up today, they're looking at hiring software engineers to build stuff for them. Company A starts up, company B, company C, up onto Z. What you're going to see is that there's going to be a scarcity of the talent in the pipeline. And that would mean that organizations would not have the required level of skills to be able to build products and solutions that will transform the lives of people. Proactively, we recognize this gap, and we can see that one of the best ways to create the pipeline or to build our pipeline is that there should be a team that is focused on growing the ecosystem. So across the ecosystem, you are going to be looking at students, you're going to be looking at lecturers, tech hubs, tech communities, industry professionals as well, right? Associations like ISPON. So our goal is to make sure that we design, we support, we implement,
very strategic initiatives that would grow this tech ecosystem so that when you come in 5 years and you want to set up an enterprise, you have the bandwidth, you have a pool to be able to get resources from. That's one of the core things that the ADC is focused on. The second part is how do we grow innovation? And innovation in this case has to be innovation that speaks in the context of Africa. It's not about adopting a solution from US or from some part of the world and redefining it into a context, but really looking at what are the core problems of people in Lalate, in Erua, and how do you use technology to address the core problems of these people in a way that what you develop is now going to be scalable on a global perspective. So that's another angle of what we look at. And ultimately, we know that there's no way we also cannot build solutions that would impact the lives of people without also having the best of best talent. So in-house, we have engineers that are Nigerians that are focused on building solutions that are being used globally. And I think that sort of summarizes what the HDC really is. So as a program manager on the ecosystem development team, every day I think about how can we support more of such events like this, and how can we sort of remove the blockers that exist in those pathways. So that's a summary. I've been in Microsoft for almost 4 years, and I started my career off as a systems integrator, and I was working more at the back end, with core switches, servers, doing things like Azure, Active Directory, which is now like Azure Active Directory from a cloud standpoint. And since I transitioned into Microsoft, I keep on looking at opportunities to learn myself, which is why I'm also here, really looking forward to learning from people and sharing a bit of my knowledge. So I think I took about 2 minutes, but thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah, very well, so thank you. And then in the words of Satya, Microsoft is all about doing words, empowering words, every person and every organization on the surface of the continent. So going forward, I'm going to be handing it over to Olumide. Olumide, tell us a bit about your journey. I know that you used to be a student ambassador, a Go student ambassador before you became an MVP, and now finally in Microsoft. So tell us a bit about yourself.
I love what you see. Just want to say how much. But yeah, my name is Olubi Ogari. I start from present and come to past future. So I currently work at Microsoft as a software engineer. I work with the Office 365 team. And basically, what we do is to deliver Office apps. That's the Word, Excel, PowerPoint, deliver it to small businesses. So my team majorly focuses on the experience of delivering those subscriptions to startups. And that's like global across the world. For me, I majorly focus on the front end, and that's like my background. And I'll talk a little bit about that. This tech stack I use, I like to talk a little bit about this for the software engineers in the house. We use TypeScript, React, we use React testing library and JS, and we use .NET with C Sharp for the backend. But I majorly focus on the front end. Actually, my team is based up in Dublin, so we have a new development center in Dublin. We will focus more on like building some of these products as we have in ADC here as well. Yeah, that's basically it about who I am presently. I used to be a student ambassador when I was in New Zealand, uh, where I got to be a good ambassador in that program. So basically, what student ambassadors do is to amplify Microsoft technologies on campus. So basically, we talk a lot about Azure, .NET, talk a lot about TypeScript, a lot of what is Microsoft's technologies, and we amplify it in the student communities. So I'm sure you must have heard about a lot of these events that you see. Student ambassadors participate a lot in it. So if you're a student here and you're interested in um, starting your tech journey, you're interested in Microsoft technology, that's a very good program for you to start off from. But after I finished up in the student ambassadors program, I joined the MVP program, and I was an MVP for artificial intelligence. So the MVP program is similar to the student ambassadors program, but now for professionals. So for me, as an AI MVP, I'll really focus on amplifying Microsoft's AI technologies. So we have like one framework which allows you to which allows you to do bots basically bot framework technology. So you can actually like spin up the bot without coding. So I used to talk a lot about that. We have the Azure machine learning as well. We have cognitive services. So I used to talk a lot about this technology before I joined Microsoft. In terms of my software engineering journey, I started off as a front-end engineer, and that speaks to why I use front-end technologies currently at Microsoft. Used to learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So you are just learning all that. You are definitely going to get there to actually building products that impact the world. So it's just the right step in the right direction. So I started off with that. I used to work at Switch. I was a software engineer, usually focused on lending service operations that we do there. But yeah, that's basically it about me. I'm not sure I have so much other things to talk about, but yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Olumide. I mean, that was not a speech. That was that was yeah. So, Gilbert, tell us what it is like being a .NET software developer. I mean, tell us a bit about your journey.
Okay, so like Olumide here, I also started as a front end developer, right? Started learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, right? And yeah, and that happened when I just finished. So my journey to software development is still short. Right, I started fully around 2020. Right, so that happened when I just finished my youth service and I was looking for something to do. I just picked up some videos I had on my system and I started, seeing them. And it was really quite difficult, picking these languages up, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That is, so it was really quite difficult picking them up. And if it's quite difficult picking HTML, CSS, and JavaScript up, then you would imagine the fear that will come to your mind when you're thinking about .NET and C Sharp. So you're like, so I remember a friend telling me about C Sharp, and I'm like, C Sharp, that's like the brother to C, and I know C is like one very difficult language. So I just kind of put it off, and I figured, okay, let me just pick up JavaScript and move towards Node. However, during COVID, that was April of 2020, I joined a program where I met my mentor. Who, I joined the program with the mindset of learning front end still, right? But then my mentor is Vincent Warner. I'm replacing him on this
Yeah.
on this panel, right? So the way he explained C Sharp, I don't know, kind of just switched everything in my head, right? Not the coding aspect, right? Just what you can do with it, how you can learn it, and stuff like that, right? Just switched everything in my head, and then I find myself moving towards C Sharp, and then I picked up C Sharp from that day on, and I think that's like the best decision of my life, right? So from then on, I just picked it up, started learning it, started bugging him, right? For if I have issues, I just go to him and like, okay, so I'm stuck here, what's going to happen, and all of that, right? So and then I got my first .NET job around August. So I started learning around April, got my first .NET job around August of the same year. And I also remember, so basically, Vincent, kind of told my ex-employers that I have this guy who's good, you can employ him and all of that, right? So I attended the interview. They told me what they wanted, and I went back to Vincent. This is what he wants. Do you think I can do it? So I went back to him and he said, no, it's just normal stuff. Just do this, and okay, you know what? Collect the job and come stay with me for a while. So in case you have any issues, So, and I did that. I collected the job. I moved. I moved in with Vincent for like 3 weeks and started the project and all of that. And yeah, so that's like my journey from being a front end developer to being a .NET developer. And I also like to point out that because of how Vincent was able to bring me into .NET, I myself also started something of the sort, right? So I'm like a co-host of a stream on YouTube called the .NET Book Study,
Okay.
where we do like live streams of coding .NET and stuff, right? So it's not like pre-recorded, but on live,
Mm.
just coding out stuff and fixing bugs as we go, right? So you kind of see the reality of coding in .NET and not just what people see in tutorials where someone is just typing from the beginning of a project to the end and not looking at anything
Yeah.
and you feel like, oh, this person is a guru. So you kind of see what's happening, right, with an average software developer when they are working, right? So basically it's not like we prepare, but then at the end of the day, no matter how you prepare, you get to find bugs in your code and you have to figure out what the issue is, and that's what I do with my co-host, Ellen. Yeah, I'm just gonna stop there.
All right. Thank you very much. Amazing story. Please reach out to Gabriel. Probably maybe you can get to know that YouTube channel and then you can learn from it. Okay, so moving on to the business of the day. Let me day to you first. Like we said, the topic for today is going to be open source in Africa. We want to know what is happening, what are the opportunities, what are the challenges, and all of that. So, considering that a few of us may be new to those terminology, how would you differentiate between open source and crowd source terminology or technology?
Okay, that's a great question, actually. Um, I've personally also used the words the wrong way. I remember there was a time I was saying I'm going to crowdsource this. And actually, what I wanted to do was to open source it. So I'm going to really explain what it means. So when we say open source, I like to say it uses the USMD model. And basically, we are leveraging a product. You are using it first. When you use it, you study it. You study after studying it, you modify it, then you distribute it. And these are all grammar. I'm going to explain it and break it down properly. So, what I'm trying to say is, I'm going to use a personal example to explain this. So, for the software engineers in the house, I do front end. So, what that means is I build the user interface on the web. So what that also means is every element you see, I design it. I write the HTML, CSS, the JavaScript for it to show. So there was a time I was working on a project that needed me to do form validation, meaning you input your name, you input a phone number, it says it is not complete, make it 11 digits. All those validations. I needed to do it across a very large application I was building. And that was when I was still at InterSwitch, and I was using a library. So what a library is some block of code that someone already built that you can put into your application and make it work. For me to write the form validation library, I have to like write some long lines of code. I mean, I can just leverage what someone has done and use it, right? So the first step I did was to use that library, meaning I went to do npm install and I pulled that library into my application and started using it. So instead of me to write about, I don't know, about 2,000 lines of code, I had to just do 3 lines of code and I was able to use the library. I enjoyed using the library. I use it across my application. But at some point, I noticed there was a bug while using it. And the bug was for dynamic forms. So you can just easily do like a static form validation. But in software engineering, you have to build something that would always work across your applications. I mean, for us at Microsoft, for example, we want to build products that will impact every individual and organization to achieve more. What that means is you don't think about your instance users. Think about everybody using your product worldwide. You think about those that will use your product in the next 5 years. So for me, I needed to build it in a dynamic way such that next time I want to like do a form, I just need to do like 3 lines of code. You get, and that is going to pull a new form for me. So I noticed a bug that was stopping me from doing that. And that was a big problem because for me to pull out from that library and go and use another library, it's a lot of work. So the first thing I did was to use the library. Second thing was I noticed this problem. So what I needed to do was to study the library, see how it is operating, look at the various lines of code to see, okay, how is this thing actually impacting my application? Is there a way I can fix it? So I had that library on my local and I had to study it to find what part of it is creating the bug for me. So, and that was a part of the study. The next thing is to modify it. And what I did was to modify the line of code that was causing that bug. After modifying it, it was able to fix my application. Normal thing, what am I meant to do? I'll just fix it in my own local and go on, right? Move on with my life. But the truth is, someone took the time to build this library for me to use. I can't fix it for myself and just go. So the next thing for me to do is now distribute that fix or the modification I've done across board to every other person using it. And that's the part where you contribute to open source. So I go to the GitHub repository, create a new branch, put the issue, put the fix to the issue, create a pull request, and someone had to review that work and merge it. So what that means now is I can just switch to a new version of that library and everything is fine. Any other person that has the same issue I'm facing now can have it resolved. And that is the beauty of open source. And that's what open source really is. So I'm sure you now understand what I mean by the USMD model, where you get to use it, you get to study it, modify it, and what? Distribute it. Now, what is crowdsourcing? I had to like look up this really well this morning when I saw this because I had to be sure it is the mental picture I had in my head was the real meaning of crowdsourcing. So basically, crowdsourcing is when you leverage the marginal interests and the free time of people. You have a lot of people in the world that are free, that are not, I'm not saying people are not, don't have things to do with their life, but you actually have a lot of people today that like they have all this free time and all this free passion and interest to improve things. You get, I mean, nobody, everyone wants to jump at any opportunity to help improve Microsoft's products or Google products. Because I mean, there's this feeling that you know that the Office today they are using, or the Microsoft Word application they are using today, my code is inside it. I mean, there's that joy you get. So basically, outsourcing is just leveraging people's interests, leveraging people's free time, and using that for a large group of people to complete a task. There is a big part of it, a task that cannot be economically completed. I'll use an example. Today we have Google Maps. I'm sure a lot of people while coming here, maybe by like Bolt, Uber, or even coming, you probably be using the Google Maps to locate this place. Imagine it takes you to the building before this building and tells you this is TD Africa. I mean, a lot of people just move on. But there's something for Google machine learning where you can contribute. You can be a local guide. So you can map those landmarks to say, this place is not TD Africa. This is the TD Africa. When you see 2 or 3 people do that, they will improve it. Meaning you have contributed to that. Now look at the difference between this example I gave and the initial example about open source. For crowdfunding, did I write any code? Did I write any code? No. So all I just did was to what? Note something and tell them this is the right thing to do. I gave my own feedback. That is simply crowdsourcing. And I'll give another example of crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing could also be, for example, let's say someone is missing and we need to find the person. You report it to the police to say, let's find this person. So what that means is the police will try to like map all the various areas that the person has been to, ask questions. They will also do crowdsourcing. They will do crowdsourcing by saying, if you found this person, please call this number. If you found this person and you call the number, I'll give you 2 million. That is crowdsourcing. You actually the technicalities of carrying a gun, maybe the person is the kidnapper or something. The police will go through all that stress. But you will contribute your own simple quota by just calling the police to say, this person is here, and they'll come and meet you there. So that's the big difference between open source and crowdsourcing. And I would like to talk a little bit about like some of the differences. It's very important that like you really know these things. So like today, for open source, the source word means code, meaning you are contributing to what? The code. The code is open and available to everybody. Just go there and contribute to it. But for crowdsourcing, the source is actually
what we need to fix, right? There's a crowd trying to work towards a main purpose, which is to improve the quality, right? So there's that big difference between open source and crowdsource. I hope I've been able to
Please,
convince
can we?
and not to confuse you. That that's
No,
the
no,
difference.
no, no. You haven't. In fact, I mean, I'm actually inspired with that explanation. It got me thinking that probably I would have started coding at a early age. I mean, what do you think? Maybe I can still go to that, right?
You have all the time.
All right. No, my head now is chasing money. All right. Now, my next question is to Babatunde. Using open source components, libraries, and packages during software development, well, allows organizations to accelerate their time of delivery. Quite all right. But see, still, it can expose organization to heightened level of risk. Can you mention a few of those ways we can mitigate against any of this risk?
All right, thank you. Very, very beautiful question. And it's also very relevant because of the work that developers basically do. You know, it reduces, or let me say it impacts, it has great or significant impact on how much work you can do as a developer. And I think there was a quote from the Gartner Group in about 2011. And the quote says that with freedom and choice comes risk, right? Which sort of helps us to understand what you might be up to as an open source developer, because you have the opportunity to choose, you have the freedom, and that means that you also might be exposed to some certain level of risk. And everything we do does come with some risk, right? So in this context, how do you now mitigate some of the risk that might come with using those resources? I think one of the very first ways to solving a problem is being aware of that problem. Awareness is actually very critical. And awareness means that and it's hard work, I would say, because it means that you're going the extra mile to understand the breadth of what you are using and the impact on the ecosystem. So let me break it down. There are two ways to think about whatever solutions or products that you build or you develop using open source code, right? The first one is the technology tier or technological tier. The second one is a business ecosystem. So in the technological tier, it's just basically compiling, bringing the codes and all of that. But there's also an ecosystem whereby what you are developing, maybe it's a product line or a product family, it goes into an ecosystem whereby additional components might be plugged into it or might be used with it. So there are two ways to now look at that, assessing what could be the risk you might be faced with. And one of the ways to really be able to mitigate that is to get multiple perspectives. And how do I put this? For example, if you belong to a group of people, or you are two in a team, or you are three in a team, or you are four in a team, right? Two of you might decide to wear the black hat. So there are these 6 arts of thinking, right? So the black hat is simply looking out for why will it not work? What is the difficult thing? It's coming up with criticism and looking out for all of the spotting all of the challenges. So two people can be those individuals that are going to wear the black hat, and what they are practically doing is understanding the technological tier and understanding the relationships across that line. So they are doing the assessment to be able to identify at the end of the day who are the people that are going to be using this. From what Olumide I talked about earlier, how are they probably going to be using this? What do they need to put together to do this? So their whole goal is just they are not necessarily trying to kill it from working, but they are looking at it from a point of view of this is not going to work and why would it not work? That helps you to get additional perspectives from things that could be easily, that could easily fall through the cracks that you probably would not have seen. And that helps in awareness. There's also the parts of the business perspective and understanding the ecosystem of where that product would eventually sit. So, for example, we talked about context, which is where the context and content, right? Then context is where it fits. But there's also the process of quality. What is the quality of what you're trying to do? That also needs to be assessed. Then the evolution of the product or whatever you're building with the code is also an important element. So one, to summarize on the few points I said earlier, awareness is very critical. And one of the ways you can actually become more aware is really reaching out to people that can. Then also you can leverage communities. Many of us belong to communities. And part of what you could do in your communities is to get use cases There could be somebody that probably had done something like that before. And part of what you want to do is to be able to get multiple use cases. For example, people that applied it in education, or people that sort of applied it for one simple work they did for a small medium enterprise, or somebody that probably built it for some fintech. Get multiple use cases and sort of sift through to be able to see how could this apply in diverse scenarios that I might be using this. So now we've talked about awareness, we've talked about looking out for things. Then there's also the part of maintenance. So it's okay to be able to get something and use it, but maintenance is actually very expensive. I mean, expensive not just in terms of time and also in terms of resources. And you have to be committed to see how do you maintain. So part of maintenance could be installing the patches at the different levels when you need to install patches, right? Making sure that if you have the opportunity to automate them, that you can also automate for people who can do that. But it's important to have a maintenance and a maintenance mindset, and to make sure that your maintenance mindset is actually proactive. So say that, okay, this patch, or if you're looking at these libraries, or we are taking these resources, how do we make sure that at this particular point in time, we are having the periodic maintenance on what we are doing? And this could also mean installing updates, basically as we could think about it. Another thing that would come to mind is automating your monitoring, right, for security vulnerabilities. And this could mean that you are scanning the code base, okay, or in some cases, you are trying to identify the dependencies whereby you could have libraries that are open to vulnerabilities. So at the end of the day, what you want to be able to do there is to say, what kind of systems already exist that could help me to automate monitoring? So four things I think you can do to summarize when it comes to mitigating the risk. One is playing high on awareness and having multiple perspectives, knowing that yes, it's okay for you to be the guy doing the stuff, but that does not mean you see from the different perspectives. From the business angle, you could be very good looking at it from technological space. The second part is making sure that you are open to maintenance and you're doing maintenance as you should do. Then the other part is also monitoring. So those are ways I believe people can what's the word now, can actually be more aware of the risk and be able to reduce the impact of the risk, or even be able to transfer them, or even be able to avoid them in cases that they can.
Thank you very much for that, Babatunde. Well explained. So, lastly, because I know we are behind time and I can see the signals from the team. Lastly, Vincent, how is the African open source community addressing common African challenges that have been faced in the open source community, so to say?
Sorry, you mentioned Vincent, so
Oh,
I was trying
sorry
to
about
figure out
that.
how to correct you.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. I mean,
Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Yeah. So the African open source community, I've been trying to, fix issues as regards problems that we're facing in Africa. I before coming up here, I tried to, search for repositories that are trying to do this, but I couldn't find any. However, I've heard of someone who's trying to fix, translations of languages. When using Google Translate, you're trying to translate from Yoruba to English, and then you kind of put like a paragraph or an article, and then you're getting something very different. So I've heard of someone who's trying to fix that, and also like he mentioned on directions, right? So there are instances where you're trying to find somewhere on Google Maps and you're not getting there, right? So I've also heard of people who are trying to fix that. Then yeah, so I don't know if I'm countering what he's saying, right? Because I also believe that open source is not just coding, right? So you could also help persons using videos like I do. You could also help persons using articles like I do, right? So I would also say I'm trying to solve that problem using my YouTube channel, and I also saw someone who's trying to ask for it. How are you going to find it? So it's called .NET Book Study, but I think what you need to do is it's on my host channel, right? So you probably need to look for Ellen Denny Codes on YouTube, ELAHNDANEE
CODES.
I think
Right.
we will meet you afterwards for that.
So yeah, so you could find it that way. Then I also recently, started, right. So one thing I also observed, while working is there are some solutions, like I'm trying to use some solutions, and the, should I say, the documentation or how to use the solutions are not really out there. So what I do at the end of the day is, after using the solutions, I try to write articles on how I fixed it and all of that. I started that recently, and also thinking of, um, articles online to video tutorials for individuals who, like learning best watching videos than reading articles. So these are just some examples of how the African community, is helping with that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And then to close it out, I know these guys are going to eat me up. Um, just give us your last thoughts, Tunde, on open source to any of the developers we have in house. Just your last thoughts.
Yeah, so I think just in a few seconds, what I think is also important is being aware of the licenses that sort of like guide what you do. There's several of them. There's the MIT license, there's Apache license, there's the General Pop. There are quite a number of these licenses. And as much as we could be very enthusiastic in doing things, one of the very good ways to avoid putting yourself in some kind of legal, quote and unquote, situation that you don't want to be in is just to be aware of the licenses that also guide the adoption or use of the codes or whatever resources you're taking.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for coming on this. Thank you, Gabriel. I'm not going to miss that again. Thank you, Olumide. And thank you so much, Babatunde, for the time. I think they've done justice to, you all agree that they've done justice to this topic. So, and all of you, thank you for listening and having us.
We just want to thank you so much for that session. That was a beautiful session. I think everybody can agree. Sorry, we can't take questions because we are far behind. But you can, I think they can approach you. All right. So the little favor you have, I think one of our sponsors, Ashem, they did a raffle draw and they want you to assist with picking out the names. So we're picking 20 names. Hopefully we can do it quickly. Just call out the names, and if you hear your name, that means you want something, and you can go and meet them outside for your gifts. Okay. So they are doing it so that you don't say that we have shit or we rigged the election.
Dada Oluwafemi Amos. Oluwafemi Amos.
Ademola Adeagbo.
Busari Sharif. Busari Sharif O.
Ogudesi Abimbola Timothy. I think you can. Why don't you spread it for another set? Maybe it's enough. Let us spread it for another set. I think we want to take this gift now. Okay, let me just check how many we have now. Yes, we have. We already have it.
Catherine John. Catherine John. Then I have Esther Ononakpo.
Osuji. Okay. Naomi Daniel, I think that is.
Sarah Ojiba and please, my mother is the name. Please forgive me. Ifesinachi Andrews.
Adebayo Obani Jesu.
Roman News Obialaso. Then there's Yusra Giwa. This is how, not Hef. I'm not sure if this is Har or Hef. It's going to be Yusuf Giwa or Yusra Giwa. Yusuf Giwa.
If you heard your name, Sorry, it's not up to 20. Somebody else to take the remaining after the next session. Please let's so the remaining 9, we've counted 11. We have 9 more. They would call their names later. So these are the names of the people we call. Thank you so much. Thank you. So we just have a 5 minute break and we'll be back. You can take a walk. You can close your eyes a bit. Just 5 minutes, please. Don't run away, oh. Yeah, just 5 minutes. Just so everybody refreshes. Okay, guys. Also, please don't forget the Azure challenge. There's a link for that. It's supposed to be on the screen.
Skatisi ambili Mungi buzwile Bezikhalile Moya uphukile Kodwa kuvele wena ya Konke sekundlule Yebo Yebo Nathi sengithola ikhaya lami Yebo Yebo Nathi sengithola ikhaya lami Yebo Yebo Nathi sengithola ikhaya lami Tanawena Tanawena Yes, Tanawena 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 Yes, Tanawena Yes, Tanawena Tanawena Yes,
If you're on GitHub, you can go to the GitHub, you'll see an Azure Nigeria as a project, and then you can go there and you see this challenge. So you see one for developer, for administrator, for DevOps, for security. So anyone you're interested in. When you're done with this challenge, you get a free voucher to go ride any of the Microsoft systems. Which is good. Okay, so can you scroll up a bit? So when you go to this link, these are short links that you can go to. aka/Azure Nigeria developer CSC for aka Azure Nigeria administrator SOC for administrators. You know, you are very new to Azure or you wanted to learn it. You can start with administrator, and if you're interested in DevOps, you know, you can have AKMS-Azure Nigeria DevOps. And if you're interested in security, you can do any of this challenge. So when you are done with this challenge, you get a great voucher to run any of the Microsoft you want to run. Thank you.
Skatisi ambili Mungi buzwile Bezikhalile Moya uphukile Kodwa kuvele wena ya Konke sekundlule Yebo Yebo Nathi sengithola ikhaya lami Yebo Yebo Nathi sengithola ikhaya lami Yebo Moya wami ukethile Yoze lami liphumile Kithi yonethezekile Jabulo yami nonile Oh yebo Athi sengithola ikhaya lami Oh yebo Athi sengithola ikhaya lami
Please, after the event, come down to the registration point for a meeting. MCC, or the community that I was contacted. Starting session now. We have Mr. Azure.
Sisi kamili Mungi buzwile Mbezi kalile Moya uhile Kodwa kuvele wena ya Kungese kundlule Yebo Yebo Nathi sengithola ikhaya lami Nathi sengithola ikhaya lami Nathi sengithola ikhaya lami Thando wena Thando wena Yesu thando wena Thando wena Thando wena Yesu thando wena Yesu thando wena Thando wena Yesu ukethile Zazi lami liphumile Ngiziyo nethezekile Jabulo yami nonile Yebo Aw yebo Athi sengithola ikhaya lami Aw yebo Athi sengithola ikhaya lami Isikhathi sihambile ngibuzwile bezikhalile moya uphukile kodwa kuvele wena ya konke sekundlule yebo yebo nathi sengithola ikhaya lami yebo nathi sengithola ikhaya lami yebo yebo nathi sengithola ikhaya lami moya wami ukethile Zazi lami liphumile Ngiziyo nethezekile Jabulo yami nonile Yebo Aw yebo Athi sengithola ikhaya lami Yebo Aw yebo Athi sengithola ikhaya lami
founder of the MCT community. I have Uche, I have Sheyi, and I have David.
Your love has taken over me. Yes, I've learned to depend on you. I've got confidence in you, oh Lord. I put my trust. Your love has taken over me. 'Cause I've learned to depend on you. I have confidence in you, Lord. I put my trust. Yes, you cover me. Yes, you me. I am the righteousness of God. Oh, yes, you cover me. Yes, I am the righteousness of This is my season of increase. I am lost in your love. Your mercies endure forever. Jehovah, Adonai. You know that
Jimmy just mentioned it. My name is Kazim Adegwega. I work for Icon Systems Limited. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer and I'm a Microsoft Azure MVP. I run some video cast online, on YouTube. So you can look it up. So it's Tech Talk with Kazim on YouTube. And there's another one where we try to showcase African talent in tech with Sam Eskin. So that is Africa Talks Tech. So we have a number of episodes online on YouTube. So you can follow me on Twitter. So it's Kazim Can Teach. And on LinkedIn, so you can look me up as Kazim Adegwega. All right, so the agenda that we're going to be looking at today is what is data protection? We'll start with that one. And I would just peep into what Microsoft Service Trust Portal is. We'll look at the responsibility, what we're responsible for in the cloud. And we'll try to look at how we can protect our data up in the cloud, up in the Microsoft Azure cloud. And we'll try to wrap things up with practices. When you're in the cloud, what are the best practices that you can go with? That's what data protection is. When we talk about protection, we would want to, in a way, marry it to security. So when we're talking security is relative. It doesn't mean that we're aiming for 100% security. So whenever we're doing security, we always want to find that middle ground, security itself, and usability, right? Because when you have an environment that is super secure, then it will hinder productivity, right? People won't be as productive as they should be. So that's not where we want to find ourselves. That's not the kind of environment we want. So we always want that middle point between security itself and usability at the same time. So meaning you can't have any network environment or any network solution, so to speak, that is 100% foolproof. Not that it's not possible to deploy, but because of what I just mentioned, the usability aspect of things. So we're never going to be gunning for 100% foolproof security. So it just means that we need to be ahead of our game to always watch what is going on. So data protection, what is it about? So is that practice, that we need to keep to secure our data in the cloud. And we're talking about data in all of its forms, whether it is the data that we have resting in the cloud, right? Whether the data that we have in transit or whether the data that we are currently using. So we want to make sure that it is secure. So that's what we mean. That's what data protection is talking about. So with Azure, it's a little difficult to understand that data protection landscape because of the many services that we have up on Azure, right? So there are a lot of services. So you always have to ask about application security here. Are we talking about infrastructure security? So that's why it's a little difficult, right, to really understand when we talk about data protection. So we would want to ask, are we talking about which aspect of Azure are we talking about? Are we talking about O365, the SaaS aspect of the cloud? So that's what it's about. So capability that we have up on Azure works. So that's one thing that we need to have at the back of our mind. A number of data protection capabilities that Microsoft Azure offers, and you can be rest assured that all of those capabilities that we have relating to data protection works up on Azure. So what we need to do as an administrator is to find out if this particular solution meets our need, if it meets your own. So that's the question that you just need to ask so that you customize what you have up on Azure to suit your needs. All right, so sometimes people have this concern. They tend to ask these many questions when they're migrating to the cloud, right? First is our data really secure up there in the cloud, right? How are we sure that when we put up our data in the cloud, that Microsoft will not have access to our data? Or when the US government, requests for our data, that Microsoft isn't going to give it to them, right? So to put our mind at rest, there is this URL that we can look up that would answer to some of those concerns, right? And the URL is the servicetrust.microsoft.com. So it just simply gives us that what Microsoft have put in place with regards to compliance and how they treat customers' data, right? How your data is being treated up in the you can find up in that on that particular website. And it also has best practices that you need to conform with. So if you have a network that you're trying to set up, you're trying to migrate to the cloud, and you want to be sure that your Microsoft Azure cloud conforms to some kind of standards, so you can look up those best practices. You can use it as a benchmark to also set up your own infrastructure, to set up your own Azure cloud. So it's very important that you look up if you are still trying to migrate to the cloud, or you're already in the cloud, but you want to be sure that you are keeping in compliance, right, with best practices, or you have some of these security concerns in your mind and you're wondering how Microsoft deals with them. So you can find answers to all of those on that particular website. So you can see some of what I have here. Microsoft spend over $1 billion, every security. If we're not migrating to the cloud, we're just staying on premises. Do you have that muscle, that financial muscle to be able to deploy, what some of these cloud providers have up there, like Microsoft? So we definitely cannot keep up. We can't compete with the cloud provider. So that's why sometimes it's just best to leverage the cloud, even though you want to say, well, maybe sometimes we have these compliance requirements where I work in the banking industry and they are saying, CBN is saying some of our data is not allowed, some of the customer data is not allowed the cloud, the public clouds. To set up your own cloud. Yeah, you can do so, but there are some aspects of the cloud still that you can push to the public cloud. So in that case, you might want to consider running an hybrid cloud, right? So the next slide. All right, so there is another question too that people try to ask or people assume, right? People sometimes assume that when they migrate to the cloud, then all of their data protection challenges, all of their security challenges is going to be addressed. So that is not very correct. That is a wrong notion. So if you have that belief, then I'm sorry to bust your bubbles that Microsoft is not responsible for everything that you have up there in the cloud. So the way you can look at it is that Microsoft, as the provider, they are for safeguarding the cloud. So the Azure cloud is Microsoft's responsibility. But what you have up there in the cloud is your responsibility as a cloud tenant, right? So the responsibility is Microsoft and also the tenants, right? You, the customer. So both parties have responsibility, their own responsibility to play, right? At the back of your mind, Microsoft is not going to be helping you do all of your data backup, for instance. It is your responsibility to do all of those. And, to try to make that a little clear. So we have this concept of shared responsibility model that Microsoft try to work with, that they try to go by. So that's why you have this diagram here. The diagram simply try to emphasize, depending on which part or which aspect of Microsoft Cloud you are adopting. So it will define which aspect of it you're responsible for and which aspect of it you're responsible for, right? So if you're doing, let's call it IaaS, right? That's infrastructure as a service, then you don't have to worry about managing servers anymore. I mean, in this day and age, nobody wants to worry about server problems. Back in the days where you find IT people sleeping in the office, either running an Exchange server, during the days of Exchange Server 2007, right? Exchange 2010, that you run on-prem. So when your email service stops working, and email is mission critical, so you find IT people sleep in the office to try to resolve the issue before the next morning. So with the cloud, you don't have to worry about that. So you can just push that responsibility to somebody else, to the cloud provider, Microsoft, Azure, Microsoft in this case, to worry about, where you will have things like patching your operating system. Your operating system patches is your problem. You have up there is yours to worry about. Your data is also yours to worry about. If you're doing platform as a service, so you have less to worry about. So you don't need to worry about the operating system. Microsoft will be responsible for patching all of those for you. You don't have to worry about infrastructure. Contend with your applications, right? But if you feel that worrying about for you, about all of those, you don't want to worry about any of those. You just want to worry about your data, right? So here, when you're doing SaaS, so you see, when you do SaaS, it doesn't mean that Microsoft is going to still be responsible for everything. Microsoft is just going to be responsible for all of these tasks, but you are still responsible for your data. Your data is yours. So whatever you do with your data is your headache. So you need to worry about making sure that you put it in a zone that is redundant. If it is so mission critical, then you probably don't want to do LRS, for instance. So when you're setting up your storage, you want using GRS, right? So maybe you want to even go beyond GRS, right? To use a better one than GRS. So this diagram has shown us at least, it gives us an insight into what we're to be responsible for as tenant, as a Microsoft tenant, as a customer that is using the cloud, and what Microsoft Azure or what as the provider is also responsible for, depending on whether you're just using Office 365 SaaS, whether you're doing SQL in the cloud PaaS, or whether you have some VMs, you have some ERP solutions running in the cloud, and you're doing IaaS, right? All right. So how can we protect? How can we protect our data in the to protect our data in the cloud? There are multiple backup service options that we have. I said it depends, right, on the service, but let me just limit it to backup for the sake, for the purpose of this presentation, right? So the options that we have, the backup service options that we have, will be to do Azure snapshots. So we can leverage on Azure snapshots. So people use snapshots as a backup strategy, of some sort. So it provides that quick and dirty option of backing up your VMs, for you. So you can visualize snapshots more like a point in time when that snapshot was taken, right? But the problem with snapshots is that in a very complex environment, or a very a very data-driven environment, it might be impractical for you to go with snapshots because you have data exchange, between your application servers and the backend from time to time. Sometimes you have some of the data being cached in memory. They are yet to be written to the backend. So if at that point in time you go ahead and take a snapshot, it means that not everything is going to be captured, right? So it's like wanting to take a picture, right? I want to take a picture of myself, my entire family, and I say this picture is going to stand the purpose for a very long time. We can always reference this picture and it's going to have everybody in it. But that picture is only going to work if I'm able to gather everybody in one place, right? But in cases where I have everybody scattered all over the place, then it's never going to serve the purpose, right? So that same analogy, you can try to marry it to snapshots. So it's easier to use snapshots when you know that you have all of your data resting somewhere, then you can take advantage of that, right? So from that standpoint, people might argue that the snapshot is not a viable backup strategy, right? So outside of the we have Azure Backup. Azure Backup is another tool that you can leverage. There is also the Azure Site Recovery. In the next two slides, I have some benefits, right, that you can look up about the Azure. Very similar to how you use if you have some people that have used Windows Backup in the past, right? So the Azure Backup, very simple interface, very nice, simple interface. If you've used DPM too as well, if you do System Center and you use DPM, so you feel at home using. The cool thing about it is that it has very good support, whether you're doing Hyper-V or you're doing VMware. So it supports you, so you can take advantage of it. Another very good thing is that when you are restoring your data, concept of the encryption passphrase, right? When you want to install an agent, for instance, you want to use it maybe to manage your on-prem data. You want to use it to manage or to back up your on-prem servers. So when you are doing the installation, it's going to prompt you for a passphrase. So only you have access to the passphrase. So only if you're giving the passphrase to somebody else, that's when they will be able to use it, for instance, to recover on your behalf, right? And another good thing about cost when it comes to Azure Backup, because some people might be wondering, if I'm doing Azure Backup, what happens if I need to do 2 backups a day? The maximum you can do is 3, right? 3 backups a day. How about if I have a whole lot of data that we back up and our strategy is such that we run full backup in the morning and perhaps, maybe differential backup at night after close of work? Well, Microsoft is kind enough not to charge you for, pay as you use. Model isn't pay as you use, Rather, Microsoft is going to be charging you for the space that you use up on Azure, right? So it is how much you're consuming on your storage, right? That Microsoft is going to be charging you for. So don't fear that every time I run back up, I'm going to have to pay. When I restore, I'm going to have to pay. So that's not how it works. I mean, we can go on and on, but because the time is short, right? So, and just quickly, the backup after replication option, LRS, local redundant storage, or GRS, geo redundant storage. So the default is always geo redundant storage. When you're doing LRS, it means that your data is going to be in that particular geography, just that geography alone. But what happens if there's a natural disaster? It means that you are not foolproof, right? But when you're doing GRS, Microsoft would have a copy of your data in other geographies, at least 3 other geographies, right? So we can go on and on. So let's move to the next slide. So those are some benefits of doing Azure backup. There is also the Azure Sites Recovery that we have, right? For data, for Azure Sites Recovery, it gives us this ability to fail over VMs or servers from your DC, from your data center to a another site, to a disaster recovery site, and you're using Azure in this case as your disaster recovery site. So you don't want to worry about you have a data center, but sometimes requirement would have it that you set up a DR site. So you can leverage on Azure, as your DR site in this case. So some of the advantage that it provides us is that it supports Hyper-V and also VMware. And if you're doing the site recovery, it eliminates need for you to have a disaster recovery site. So you can just say the cloud is your DR site, right? Though when we look at it in a way, setting up disaster recovery or how much you're going to be paying to have this in place is not cheap. It's very expensive to set up a DR site, or if you're leveraging on it up on Azure. But how you want to look at it, or how you're going to have to talk to your management people, is that they can see it more like insurance that you pay, for using your car. So we can say that we're going to use our car, and we might not have an accident in a year. All through the year there might not be accident. But the question is, what happens if there's an accident, right? So it's not a question of how much we're going to spend on setting it up. So you always need to follow it up with what is the cost of not setting it up. So if you get the picture, right? So not just the cost of setting it up, but how about when we don't set it up, to sometimes that you need to marry to a cost. So it has a cost bottom line sometimes for people that run a data critical environment, right? So you always need to ask that question. So you can leverage on the Azure site recovery as well. Next slide. All right, so I feel that I think I've done about 16 or 17 minutes. So it's not going to be nice, right? I know that everyone here is not might not be super techie person. So it's a mixed environment. So and it won't be nice for us to talk about Azure and just keep talking without seeing some demo. So it would be nice for us to at least have a feel of what that Azure environment looks like. So I'm just going to demo something real quick to just make you have a feel of what I'm talking about, and then we can wrap up, right? So I don't have the computer here, but I would, yeah. All right. So I know it's a mixed environment, right? So I'm not going to be assuming anything. So when you want to do Azure, you want to do Microsoft Azure, there are many ways of managing, of administering stuffs up on Azure, right? So one way to manage Azure is via what we call the Microsoft Azure portal, right? And you do that via the web browser. So there is a URL that becomes your very good friend when you want to administer stuffs on Azure, right? So the URL is portal.azure.com, right? Portal.azure.com. All right, so never mind. So I just had to refresh the portal. I logged in just to make things a little snappy, right? So this is what the portal looks like. If you are the command line type of person, there's also 5 minutes. Okay. All right. So I learned I have just 5 more minutes. Okay. So here's what we're going to do, right? So there is a place that you need to go to up on the portal. So just go to the okay, so backup center, right, is where you need to go to. Go to the backup center and you can look up the stuffs that you want from the backup center. Okay, the internet seems a little poor. Don't worry, since I have 5 minutes, I'll just talk through it. Can you help me with the slide again? Just okay. Huh? Oh, okay. Duplicate. All right. Okay, so you can just move past the. All right, so the okay, towards the after the demo part, right? So I have just a few minutes left. So sorry, we wouldn't be able to do that demo. You can come to the one before this one, right? So there are some best practices, right, that you need to follow. But about the demo that I was trying to show, so you can always go to the backup center, and it's very pretty much straightforward. And if you're trying to learn some of how to set up these things, for instance, the snapshots, the Azure backup, I have some of those on my YouTube channel. So you can look up that Tech Talk with Kazim and try to see if you want to do snapshots, how to do snapshots when you're on the channel. So I think I have a video up that talks about that. And some of the other services, I try to bring some other professionals to talk about them. So you can learn about the demos up on the channel. So some best practices, there are many different ways of doing things wrong, right? But there are a few ways of doing things right. So those few ways of doing things right, we like to refer to them as best practices, right? So we have some best practice that you need to follow when it comes to protecting your data up in the Azure cloud. So be sure to remember that Microsoft isn't responsible for everything that you have up in the cloud. Some responsibility comes to you as a cloud tenant. Be sure to always secure your data regardless of where it is. Whether you have it up in the air, you have it on transit, don't just leave it unprotected. Always use encryption, right? Whether it is resting or people are using it, you're using it on a SQL server. Be sure to always use encryption or a certificate with it, right? Use RBAC, role-based access control. Don't just set it up. Make sure that you set it up the correct way, right? And we can't talk about protection without talking about the importance of also educating your users. You always need to make sure that you educate your users. So that's what I have for you. The last slide is just talking about things we've covered. So we've learned what data protection is all about. We've learned how we can protect our data leveraging some of those Microsoft solutions, data backup solutions, and we've seen some best practices. So thank you very much for your time. And yes, again, you can reach me. We can connect up on social media. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kazim. I think that was a very important session. I've always had this struggle with data protection, backing up your data. A lot of people think once it's on the cloud, it's Microsoft's responsibility. Please, from now henceforth, know it down that you should back up your data, because if you lost, it is on you. Thank you. All right, so this we're having the last two sessions for the day. One will be happening here, the other one will be happening. I can see everyone is tired. I must commend you guys. You're the most brilliant class ever. Tenacious. Should I continue? Enduring. Another adjective. Strongacious. The hustle life is on us. We must push to the end. All right. So there's an announcement from Mr. Roland, and also we'll just pick the last 9 people for the raffle draw, and then we'll take the session. We have our speaker already here. Mr. Roland.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for staying up to this time. My name is Joseph Roland Gibson. I'm one of the leaders from Microsoft Azure Nigeria. And so part of what we want to do, we have a vision to train at least 5,000 Nigerians, youths, in the next 2 years. So within the community, we have weekly study programs. We have like 3-month programs. So we have a lot of series that we are currently running. And we want to identify the community leaders in several regions within Nigeria who are also doing something within the Azure space. So what we want to do is, because we have a lot of Azure communities that are scattered everywhere, so we want to bring this community together, right, so that when we have information and opportunities, it's easier for us to communicate. Because oftentimes we have people that say, oh, we have a community in Oshogbo, we are not identified by Microsoft and all that. So we want to know these guys so that every resources that we have, we can harness them. When we have opportunities and program, we can share the information so that people in different urban and rural areas can get to benefit. So if you're a community leader, so there's a link here. So all you just need to do is go to bit.li Azure Community Builders, fill the form. Okay, guys, please. Oh, okay. All right. So the Azure community is anything that has to do, everything that has to do with Microsoft cloud services, right? So you have data security, AI, IoT, and everything. So just use this link. Then we'll get in touch with you. So the second one is we love to have feedback. I know some of us are not happy with us with we started late and then some people didn't get food and all that. So, one thing that we do so in our community is CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous. So we want to, so we want to see how we can improve your experience, right, in our next event. So please kindly help us with feedback. And when you are right, we need constructive feedback that will help us to improve. So we want to go back and say, oh, there's a lot of things that we didn't do right. Thank you so much for listening.
Before you go, you help us pick the raffle draw winners while Mr. Uche gets ready for his session. Just 9 people. Eh? Okay, Mr. Kazim, you can also join him.
Please, can we have the second link for the feedback? The feedback link. are they getting? iPad. So Hashem has a gift for you. I think it's a car. So so we have John Uba Ikechuku. John Uba. Okay, Ikedua. Olayinka, okay. Ah, how do you know? Tinumbu. Damili. Who would you? Ah, I beg you. No, no. Dilog Ogona is Okafor Ifeanyi. Izuchuku. Is he around? Please, I like gifts. Oh, if they are not around, I know their houses. Okay, Shola Ayo. Eh? Shola, yeah, Shola Ayola or something. Yeah, you know. Yeah, with your phone number, you know your name, please. Yeah, my name is not there.
Okay.
So here I have Botoso Olaoluwa. Botosho, okay, Botosho Olaoluwa. Yeah, so that's one. Olafemi, right? All right. There's Adebayo Olafemi. Or Olufemi, I think it's A. Olafemi or Olufemi. And the last one is Said Olumide.
Thank you so much, sir. All right, so are we ready for the last class of the day, the last track? Um, we have Mr. Uchechuku Upama. If I murder the name, will just kill me. And he used to also be my trainer, so I'm happy to bring him up here. He'll be taking security and compliance, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. Please, this is going to be an interesting session, so don't miss it. Okay, we just have to put this back. Come. Oh, yeah, no.
Okay, good almost evening. Good afternoon, everyone. All right. So again, my name is Uche, and I've been around for a while, small while. Okay, and the slide up. Okay. So I'll be my senior colleague Kazim talked about security in terms of data protection. There is a lot actually regarding security, and it has different phases. First, from infrastructure, first from the design. Then you start looking at identity and access. After identity and access, you start looking at it from an endpoint point of view. And after endpoint means your phones, your devices, BYOD, and all the likes. And then you start looking at applications. So today, let me know when it's up, please. Huh? All right. So today we'll just talk quickly about some stuff. And for those of us here, the idea of this slide was to bring us into a new awareness. There's a growing trend of many people moving to the cloud. Thank you. All right, moving to the cloud, and it's a very beautiful career point. If you're looking for relevance in the next few months, few months, this is a place to cut. Thank you. All right, so let's go. All right, thank you. Next slide. All right, brief about me. I do a lot of stuffs. Okay, I consult currently for Global Knowledge and Simply Learn. That's what I do now. Thank you. Next slide. All right. So there's this stuff here. I tried to put you over because there's a link. Could you click on that link for me? No, don't worry. It's on the first Edge browser. Did I close it? Yeah. If it's not there, don't worry. All right. Here's the whole idea. All over the world, since the turn of COVID, there's been a lot of migrations. All right. Our lives has changed since COVID. In the words of a famous man, he said, post-COVID drove digital transformation to its extremes. Are we together? So here, just showing us how different companies are using cloud app security to manage their environment. Next slide. If you can't open that, don't worry. Get to the next slide. All right. All right. Great. So here is a bit about the enterprise class technology. Now, people move to the cloud, like I said. There's a lot to consider. For many reasons, there's a shortage of skill sets in this area. For many reasons. Who can tell me one of the reasons? There's always constant advancement. For every new level of security, crime rises. Security will rise. Crime will rise. Security will rise. It's always like that. Now, before, network was the main security play. Now it's identity and access. Gradually moving to devices. Come on, you work from your phones, you work from your PCs. What makes you think you're not being monitored? All right. So here just shows us Microsoft investment across the identity and access management, protection, information protection, and security management. All of this sits on your infrastructure technology, all under Microsoft Cloud App Security. So this is a big offering from Microsoft to guide you in ensuring that, hey, next slide, thank you. All right, we'll skip this link since we can go into the details. All right, who is a broker? The guy or that person that manages or that helps stands as a go between a lot of services, right? Yeah, we're looking at cloud access security broker. Next slide. And we're looking at how this is all data. Many people using all kinds of service. I mean, third-party service. We're here. Your devices has Microsoft apps, has Google apps, has a lot of all kinds of apps. You are consuming data everywhere, creating data points everywhere, data catches everywhere. So hey, there has to be a new approach to all of this with the reason just okay. When you look at it, you smile. So many nations are putting a lot of work. I've had the privilege of meeting people who designed European GDPR. Germany has stood out. Now Netherlands, UK soon, France soon. These are major people who are really concerned about data and how data is working. Here we are, people are building apps. The dev guys are building apps. Power Apps guys are building apps. Who is managing the data? You get it? All right. No, if you don't get it, forget about it. All right, next slide. So these are use cases where we have a security broker manages. Let me start from here. So I'll give you a quick walkthrough. All right, so from the left to the right, you need to discover the apps. We have all these apps we use with your office laptop. You open your Gmail with your office laptop, even though it's not your official mail. You use a whole lot of stuff. Some of us, even your companies allow you to use Dropbox. Do you understand? As far as I'm concerned, it's almost a security breach. So we need to know if your companies allow these apps or not, because there could be data theft. You could move corporate data into any of these sources. So here we're looking at how MCAS manages across board. It first discover, classify, and then detect. Keeps ongoing monitoring. There's a lot of going involved. That hey, are you sure you're the right person that accesses information? What is your rights over this information? Thank you. And where are you signing it from? Work from home, bah? It's interesting, Shay. All right. Now, guess what? All the VPN IP addresses have been mapped. So if you say you're in Lagos, and you're not in Lagos, we know. You get it? So now we're looking, where are you working from? Because that country has its own data laws. Do you understand? So some of us are wondering why sometimes we apply for some jobs, they didn't give us a job in foreign countries. It's because of data, or not because they're not skilled enough. We'll get there. All right, so this just talk about use cases for unsanctioned apps. All right, sanctioned apps and cloud trial. I'll give you an example quickly. We know SharePoint, right? All right, and in your offices, many offices use Edge to access their SharePoint, and then they have a list of allowed browsers. What if Mozilla is not in that list, and then you are using an outdated Mozilla to want to open SharePoint? You see, that's a flaw. Or you are using one of these new browsers people are putting everywhere to access corporate resource. That's a flaw. So there's a list of sanctioned apps, unsanctioned apps, and then threats. Threats could deal with user risk or signing risk. A typical location, signing from risky location, compromised usernames and passwords, IP addresses. There's so much stuff. For those of us who are here, we like to use free IPs, free Wi-Fi. Please think twice, okay? Especially when you're going to work. I see a lot of folks go to coffee shop and sit down for that coffee shop and attend meetings. Guys, it's risky. Many of those stuffs have been reported on Microsoft Security Mesh for malicious activities. So you may not be able to access all the tools you normally do because you are using the an IP addresses that has been reported. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. All right, quickly on this, let's move on. That's your cloud access security broker, all right? For Office and Azure. Now, guess what? I wish we could do some demo, but this app, this tool covers, I'm aware of almost over 10,000 apps. That's why you see that loves third party. They're always working. All right, so here we go. It does a lot of stuff. Endpoint detection. It works with identity and access. No time for demo. I would have shown you some stuff. I use a VPN. I'll tell you what I did here. I used VPN, changed my location to Brazil, signed into Office, signed out, used my VPN, changed to another location, signed in with that IP. I did 3 different places, and I had all records on my security broker. That's my and you were showing me the issues, the IPs, the locations, and told me that hey, this username should be forced, this person should be forced to reset password, and I should enforce location policy on that guy. You see how it works. So let's move on to the next slide. But before then, can you go back, please? All right, so we can see here it works with almost all kind of apps. Here's AWS, Slack. These are so-called rivals, right? But hey, the vision of not CEO, current CEO, or Microsoft, Nadia Sadella, right? What's the name? Yeah, Nadia. Thank you. All right, I watched one of his videos, and he was talking about Microsoft loves to partner. It's about now building bridges instead of building fences. So we know people use these tools. We know people do this stuff. So come on, let's make sure that they are safe. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here are some of the apps in the marketplaces, featured customers. These are all Forbes 500. All right. They got the money. You know what I'm saying? All right. And then here are featured apps and tools, folks using G Suite, Dropbox, and all these stuff. Your cloud, MCAS, Microsoft Cloud App Security, can manage all of that for you. Next slide, please. All right, so let's look a bit about discovering shadow IT. Anyone here knows what shadow IT is all about? Quick one. Shadow IT. Have you heard of it before? All right. Shadow IT, I'll give you an example. You are using that application that is not approved in your office. You are using that tool that is not approved in your office. Ogamisa, we are very humble. That's my guy. All right. So those tools. Okay. Anyone here? Your system has faced a ransomware before? Anyone? Ransomware? All right. Research shows many of those ransomware attacks were from applications that had no more support. Some pussy use WinRAR here. Sorry, I want to spoil their market though. Here you are here. Which version of WinRAR are you using? The free one. Gang, gang. You are getting there. It goes on and on and on. So again, those are tools that many of us use within our enterprise environment that has led to a lot of issues within our corporate PC. Next slide, please. All right. Here, how we discover, you perform your discovery and identity, and then you evaluate and analyze, and then you manage for continuous monitoring. Here is where I was flagged when I did on my IP stops or continuous monitoring. So you can detect all the apps in your environment, all right, and then check your compliance. Are they compliant? Compliance is the key word for tomorrow, today and tomorrow. Compliance. You can have the best technology, but it fails on compliance, man. 0/200. Next slide, please. All right, so this is a quick overview. I thought about it that I may not be able to have a laptop here, so I did some screenshots. So here's our cloud app discovery. Here I've run a discovery showing certain of our applications and how many PCs are using them and how often they are logged on. What kind of data have they consumed? How long have they consumed it? Where is the source? Where is the destination? Are we seeing that from a different point of view here? So these are just this gives us a quick overview of everything here. This is not so clear, but we have tabs right on top of there where you can do a lot of investigation. Here, this first section here is where you do your discovery. This is where we perform our continuous monitoring. So there's a whole lot of stuff this can do. I mean, it can save your day. My ex-tech expert paper, we here. All right. Now we are more than the company so far has a lot of staffs, right? And now many people are working from home. I'm using that as an example because they have volumes, right? And in these volumes, you have many things going on with those systems. Now we have to have insight into what's going on. That is the only because take it or not, hybrid work is here to stay. In fact, sometimes full remote. But if you're going to work full remote, you have to understand that your endpoint must constantly be monitored for data protection. Your endpoint must constantly be monitored to ensure that you're compliant. I knew a guy who got a job in a certain country, and then he was getting help from another guy for his job frequently. Guess what? And they just flagged him and said, your device has been marked as non-compliant. Please bring it to the office on Monday. And then they logged him out of the PC. That was part of the conditions he read when he got the offer. System to work. We've been seeing Zoom connection from certain location. Explain. You get it? All right. So here, so shadow discovering of stuff, understanding your risk. Now, guess what? It's not just cloud apps; it's also on-premise apps. You get it? So for those companies that are hybrid, I see us today. We will be in many places tomorrow. IT managers, security consultants, different places tomorrow. We need to understand how this technology starts. You could be called for an interview in 6 months' time if you build your career right now. There's so much demand. Just to give you one of the current issues going on in all over Europe, there's an attack on Azure AD. Who has heard about it? Anyone? Yeah. Azure AD is being heavily attacked across Europe. On-premise AD. Very simple. It's just one problem. Sir, they did not where you manage how they privilege to each group. So maybe now my guy here is very skillful and they move to this project, to that project, to that project, to that project. He has a lot of rights on his profile. And they looked at him that if we can manipulate this guy, we are in. That's all. So same for on-premise. So stuff like that. So this stuff does a lot of discovery across board. Next slide, please. All right. So this is architecture design. Observes using your Microsoft Defender. It means advanced threat protection. Okay. So here we go. Picking up the user, IP address, and your machine. I've consulted for a company that has over 15,000 staff scattered all over Europe. And then if you see that dashboard, you hold your chest. Yes. All kinds of device. Mac, phones, iPhones, laptop, servers, and then you now see that wow. So at scale, this is able to work and it does not crash. It's enterprise. Okay. So this is just how it works. Next slide, please. All right, so here's the second tab of the slide. Let me just break it down. This is showing number of machines that are affected, that are failed along here. And then it's telling you what tool they are using. That is not approved. We have discovered the apps, and then we're looking to now manage them. So there are two ways based on that policy. You could actually choose to delete them yourself, or you could choose to send the guy a query, or you could send a mail to his manager, or you you just fire the guy. Different companies, different policies. You, all right, don't worry, you get this one. All right, next slide. Okay, so here's on your local system. This is what was done. All right, before I talk about this, who knows Windows Autopilot? Windows Autopilot? Yes, ma'am. Windows Autopilot. But these are post-COVID really quick. And system is deployed straight to the end user. No user interface. All right. So now session is always turned on your Defender for security. Let's say, let me compliment one thing my guy said. Microsoft spends over $1 billion, right? I'll tell you where it started from. One device was names. Not that double.